welcome to the Parliamentary Broadcast Unit in collaboration with KBC. Welcome to the third session of the morning sitting, today being Wednesday, the session that commences at 9:30 a.m. And members of Parliament are today expected to deliberate on a couple of motions and bills, starting with the National Government Coordination Amendment Bill of the National Assembly, Bill number 25 of 2023. That it is in second reading, and the question is set to be placed today. This bill is brought by Malava Constituency Member of Parliament, Honorable Malulu Injendi. The principal objective of this bill is to recognize village elders who perform national government functions in village units. In accordance with Section 14.3 of the National Government Coordination Act, National Government Service Delivery Coordination Unit should mirror the decentralized units established under Section 48 of the County Government Act. It is notable that the village units are part of those decentralized units envisaged under Section 48. But these units are not recognized under the National Government Coordination Act. And the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Gladys Boss, has walked in to the session that is just about to commence in less than a minute. And I hand over you to the plenary. Let's listen in.
With your abundant favor, as your servants whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of important trusts in this republic. Let your blessings descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen. I direct that the bell be rung for 10 minutes.
And having not achieved the quorum for the commencement of the House, pursuant to Standing Order 34, the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Gladys Boss, has ordered that the bell be rung for 10 minutes to allow members of Parliament to walk into the House and for the sitting. Today's sitting being the third session of the morning sitting that was expected to commence at 9:30 to begin. And still on the National Government Coordination Amendment Bill, the National Assembly Bill number 25 of 2023, that is its second reading, and the question is set to be placed today, being brought by Honorable Malulu Injendi, the Member of Parliament for Malava Constituency. It is notable that village units are part of those decentralized units envisaged under Section 48, but these units are not recognized under the National Government Coordination Act. So the National Government Coordination Act recognizes county commissioners, their deputies and assistants, as well as chiefs and sub-chiefs. But it doesn't not recognize village administrators and village elders, who are the administrative officers in charge of the village units and who oftenly perform key national government roles within the village units, and thus they deserve recognition and compensations. In pursuance of Section 14.3, the bill seeks to take cognizance of existing village units and provide for the establishment of village councils and appointments of village elders, as well as payment of allowances. The bill that is in second reading by Honorable Malulu Injendi, the Member of Parliament for Malava constituency, proposed that village units have village councils headed by the village administrators working with the village elders, a structure akin to that set under Section 53 of the County Government Act. On the statement on the delegation of legislative powers and limitations of fundamental rights and freedom, the bill does not delegate legislative powers, and also it does not limit rights and fundamental freedoms in bills of rights. On whether the bill concerns the county government, this bill, on its second reading, does not concern county government in terms of Article 110(1)(a) of the Constitution, and it does not affect the functions and the powers of the county government recognized in the fourth schedule to the Constitution. This, whether the statement that the bill is a money bill within the meaning of Article 114 of the Constitution, the enactment of this bill may occasionally or additionally expenditure of public funds. That is the first bill on the order of business today. That is in second reading by Honorable Malulu Injendi, the Member of Parliament for Malava. The Members of Parliament are also expected to deliberate on the motion on development of a satellite-based climate change monitoring policy. The motion by the Honorable Abdul Haro, the Member of Parliament. The House resolved that the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry to develop a policy on IT that deploys the use of satellites in monitoring and forecasting of climatic conditions with the objective of ensuring timely and accurate data collection that will enhance the country's capacity to respond to weather-related risks and vulnerabilities, including the climate change. Our Constitution recognizes the people's respect for the environment as the country's heritage and commitment to sustaining the environment for future generations. The cyclic drought in the country has caused devastating effects and serious disruptions to our economy. And while recognizing that the climate change is a global problem, with developing countries being the most affected, as these regions are dependent on the climate-sensitive factors such as agriculture and forestry. The severe effects of climate change are also already being experienced in form of frequent droughts, flooding, and other extreme weather occurrences. It's a concern that the current climatic change monitoring mechanisms in our country are based on the traditional methods, which rely on the ground observations and climate models, which have limitations in terms of accuracy, timeliness, and spatial coverage. The country recently launched its first operational satellite to collect and transmit high-quality data. Further, noting that this technology to monitor climate change with marked positive impacts, appreciating that the use of technologies, especially satellite technology, would allow enhanced monitoring that can have significant impact on sustainable environmental management, appreciating that this technology would be useful in monitoring difficult to reach, expansive, and unsafe areas, having in mind that our country covers 290 kilometers, 290 constituencies and 47 counties, being an expansive country. And also the review on the eligibility age for enrollment of older members of society to the Inua Jamii Cash Transfer Program. This is a motion brought by the Honorable Majimbo Kalasinga, the Member of Parliament, where it urges the House through the national government, the Ministry of Labour and Social Protection to revise the age requirement for eligibility of elderly members to be enrolled to the Inua Jamii program from 70 years to 60 years in line with our Constitution. Article 57 of the Constitution provides that the state shall take measures to secure the risks of older persons to live in dignity and to receive reasonable care and assistance from the government, that is the state. Noting to actualize the provisions of Article 57 of our Constitution, the government rolled out the Inua Jamii Cash Transfer Program in 2015. It provided regular and predictable cash transfers to older persons aged 70 years and above and who are not in receipt of civil service pension. While appreciating the success that the program has recorded in alleviating poverty and suffering among older members of the society since its inception, the government intends to progressively net more vulnerable and underprivileged members of the society with a view to reaching at least 2.5 million beneficiaries in the next 3 years. It's a concern that with respect to eligibility to this program of Inua Jamii for the older people, and while Article 260 of the Constitution defines an older member of society as one who has attained the age of 60 years, concerning that capping of the eligibility for enrollment to the Inua Jamii program at the age of 70 is discriminatory to the older members of the society and negates the spirit of our constitutions that entitles the support to older members of the society. That is a motion that is expected to be debated today by Honorable Majimbo Kalasinga, the Member of Parliament. Also, we have a motion today by Honorable John Kiarie on the establishment of a science museum in our country. It urges the House to resolve that the national government, through the relevant ministries, to establish and make it operational a science museum in our country. According to Article 11.2b of our Constitution, it provides that the development and the government shall recognize the role of science and indigenous technologies in the development of our nation. And also aware that Vision 2030 provides for the integration of information, communication, and technology in the country's transformative agenda. It's a concern that there exists no science museum for consolidation of indigenous scientific and technological innovations, training, and research purposes in East African region. And the quorum has been achieved in accordance to the pursuant to Standing Order 34 of the Constitution.
Honorable members, we now have quorum. We may proceed. First order.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Honorable Wako, on behalf of the Majority Leader.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Wednesday, February 28, 2024, morning sitting. Number 1, Annual Report of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission for financial year 2022-2023 from the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. Number 2, Report of the Auditor General and Financial Statement for the year ended 30th June 2023 and the certificates therein in respect of A, African Union and other international organizations subscription fund, B, Provident Fund, National Treasury, C, European Widows and Orphans Pension Fund, D, National Authority for the Campaign Against Alcohol and Drug Abuse, Car Loan and Mortgage Fund, E, National Land Commission Staff Car Loan Scheme Fund, F, Contingencies Fund, G, Statement of Outstanding Obligations Guaranteed by the Government of Kenya, the National Treasury, H, Rural Enterprise Fund, I, State Department for Labor and Skills Development, J, State Department for Implementation of Curriculum Reform, K, State Department for Information, Communication Technology and Digital Economy, L, State Department for Wildlife, M, State Department for Immigration and Citizen Services, N, State Department for Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise, MSME Development, O, State Department for East African Community, P, Prison Farms Revolving Fund, Q, Consolidated Fund Services Public Debt, the National Treasury, R, Witness Protection Agency, S, Green Growth and Employment Thematic Program, GGETP, State Department for Environment and Climate Change, T, TVET Curriculum Development Assessment and Certification Council, TVET CDACC, U, National Youth Service Mechanical and Transport Fund, V, Roads Annuity Funds, State Department for Roads, W, Independent Policing Oversight Authority Staff Mortgage and Car Loan Scheme, X, Business Registration Services, Official Receiver, Y, Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, KNCHR, and Z, Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. Madam Speaker, thank you and I lay.
Thank you. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
I think notices of motion. The Honorable Member for Lamu East, Honorable Rueda Obo.
Thank you, the Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion. That aware that Article 239 provide for the national security organ, including the Kenya Defence Force. Further aware that the Kenya Defence and Kenya Special Forces play an indispensable role in promoting and safeguarding national security according with the Constitution. Recognizant that a member of the forces faces life-threatening risk as they carry out their duties to protect our citizens, particularly in high-risk and volatile area, noting that there is currently no token of appreciation for the remarkable dedication, service, and sacrifice made by the Kenya Defence and Special Forces, acknowledging that it is important to accord a special privilege and honor to our military and veteran personnel, akin to the practice observed in other countries, including being allowed to access services like banking hall and boarding of flight ahead of general public. Further acknowledging that this practice will not only instill a sense of pride among the Kenya Defence and Kenya Special Forces personnel, but also enhance pride among the enhance their moral and motivation, thereby boosting their performance and commitment to our national security. Cognizant of the fact that there exists no national policy or framework to facilitate the implementation of such a practice, now therefore, this House urges that the national government, through the Ministry of Roads and Transport, encourage local airlines to establish a priority boarding protocol for the Kenya Defense and Kenya Special Forces personnel, which grant them the privilege to board local aircraft before the general public. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
Honorable Ruku.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to ask a question or questions to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Could the Commission state whether all monies and properties recovered for the state by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC, under the Proceeds of Crime and Anti-Money Laundering Act, Cap 59A, have been deposited with the Asset Recovery Agency? 2, could the Commission provide a report on all monies and properties that have been recovered and deposited to the Criminal Asset Recovery Fund pursuant to Section 101 of the Proceeds of Crime and Anti-Money Laundering Act, Cap 59A, since the coming to the force of the Act to date? 3, could the Commission provide the details on how the monies and assets under the fund have been administered, including specific purposes for which the said funds and all properties have been utilized? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Next order.
Order number 8, the National Government Coordination Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 25 of 2023. Question to be put.
Honorable members, I now put the question that the National Government Coordination Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 25 of 2023 be read a second time. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Order number 9, the Mung Beans Bill, Senate Bill number 13 of 2022, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to provide for the development, regulation, and promotion of the mung beans sector and for connected purposes. Order number 10, the Startup Bill, Senate Bill number 14 of 2022, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to provide for a framework to encourage growth and sustainable technological development, new entrepreneurship employment, create a more favorable environment for innovation, attract Kenyan talents and capital, and for connected purposes.
Next order.
Order number 11, the Kenya Sign Language Bill, Senate Bill number 9 of 2023, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to give effect to Article 7(3)(b) of the Kenyan Constitution on the promotion and development of the use of Kenyan Sign Language, and to give effect to Article 54(1)(d) to provide for the inclusion of sign language in education curriculum, to provide for use of sign language in legal proceedings, and for connected purposes.
Next order.
Order number 12, the Public Service Commission Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 6 of 2023, second reading.
It's resumption of debate. I think there was a balance of 58 minutes. Who was on the floor? Honorable Felix Oduor. He had 3 minutes. Is he here? That's also known as Jalango. Okay. Can go to the next. I can see here the Honorable Abdul Haro, member for Mandera South.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to move the motion that, aware that the Constitution recognizes the people's respect for the environment as the country's heritage and commitment to sustaining the environment for future generations. Further aware...
Sorry, excuse me. Honorable Member for Mandera South, we are on order number 12, resuming debate on the Public Service Commission Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 6 of 2023. I think it had come up last Wednesday, and we are proceeding with we are resuming debate on it, not a fresh statement. I think we went over that. I can see the Honorable Jane Kagiri Laikipia, member for Laikipia. Do you want to contribute to this debate? She's not here. Okay. Yeah, do you want to contribute to this debate? No, it's the next one. Okay. The Honorable Esther Passaris, member for Nairobi County. You're also on the list. Are you contributing to this debate? The next one. The Honorable Maina Mathenge, member for Nyeri Town. Yes, you may proceed. You want to contribute to this debate? Asante, proceed.
Honorable Speaker, this motion by member for Embakasi has come at a very timely point in the course of the tenure of the Kenya Kwanza government. The delivery, the success of this government is largely hinged on the performance of the public service. Currently, as structured, the public service is suffering from lethargy and paralysis on the basis of the fact that most of the senior positions in government, in the ministries and as well as in parastatos, have been held in acting capacities by people who hold the requisite experience, skills, and qualifications. But they are unable to make firm decisions at crucial moments because they are in acting capacities. Honorable Speaker, the best example of how this has hindered the success of the Ministry of Health, which right now is charged with the responsibility of delivering UHC, which is a key pillar of the Kenya Kwanza administration, is the fact that the Director General for Medical Services, Dr. Amo, has been acting for the last 6 years in that position. How can the technical person heading the Ministry of Health be acting and yet have the courage, the determination, and the mandate, full mandate, to implement, roll out, and supervise UHC? Honorable Chair, again, when you go to key parastatals in the area, we also have acting CEOs. We go to KEMSA, we have an acting CEO. We go to KEMRI, which is in charge of research, we have an acting CEO. Even in other areas where we have agricultural commodities being traded. An example is the Nairobi Coffee Exchange, where all the coffee in our country, a vital product that is so key to our farmers and also to the foreign exchange position in our country. The CEO is acting for the Nairobi Coffee Exchange. And therefore, it is important that the National Assembly does provide the proper legal framework to guide the question of being in an acting capacity moving forward, so that we can unlock the potential of our public service and also the ability of this government to deliver and perform. And on that basis, Honorable Speaker, I support and congratulate Honorable Major Donk for this timely motion. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. I also see I have the Honorable Kahindi Katana, member for Kaloleni. Are you contributing to this debate?
Yes. Asante Bi Speaker kwa kunipatia nafasi hii kuchangia marekebisho ya sheria ya tume ya utumishi kwa umma. Bi Speaker, kwa muda mrefu sasa mashirika yasiyokuwa ya serikali na pia taasisi nyingi za serikali tumeona wakurugenzi ambao wameendelea kuhudumu wakiwa hawajapewa nyadhifa kamili ama uwezo kamili katika taasisi hizi. Wamekuwa wakishikilia nyadhifa hizi kwa muda mrefu na hawawezi kufanya maamuzi ambayo yanasaidia mashirika haya. Bi Speaker, pia utaona kwamba mtu ameshikilia nyadhifa kwa muda wa miaka 2 ama miaka 3 ama 4. Alafu nafasi ya kazi inapotangazwa, yule ambaye ameshikilia nyadhifa hii kwa muda wa miaka 2 ama miaka 3, kwa sababu hana uwezo ama ushawishi wa kisiasa, unaona mtu yule anatolewa na anapatiwa mtu mwingine ambaye hata alikuwa ni mdogo wake katika nyadhifa ile. Inasikitisha kwa sababu inarudisha ile ari na azma ya mtu kujitolea na kufanya kazi yake. Bi Speaker, tumeona pia kwamba kuna taasisi nyingine mtu amemaliza kuhudumu kwa miaka yake, pengine amefikisha miaka 55, unaona anaongezewa muda wa miaka 2 kuendelea na kazi ile. Hii imekuwa ikinyima nafasi vijana. Mtu akifikisha umri wake kama ni miaka 55 ama ni miaka 60, anastahili kustafu ili apatie nafasi watu wengine haswa vijana waweze kushikilia nyadhifa zile. Pia kama tumeamua kwamba ama sheria imepitishwa kwamba mtu atastafu kati ya miaka 55 ama miaka 60, itapatia nafasi mashirika yasiyokuwa ya serikali na taasisi mbali waweze kufundisha watu wao ama watu fulani ambao watashikilia nyadhifa zile. Isiwe tu ati ni mtu mmoja ndiye ana ujuzi Kenya nzima, hawezi kupatia nafasi watu wengine. Hii imedhalalisha vijana ambao wako na shahada na hawawezi kupata nafasi, kwa sababu inasemekana hawa ambao wanatakana kuretire waweze kuongezewa muda wa kuendelea kuhudumu. Kwa hivyo Bi Speaker, mimi ninaunga mkono marekebisho ya mswada huu. Asante Bi Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable John Gakusha, member for Mukurweni.
Thank you, Speaker. I appreciate this opportunity. I would like to contribute to this amendment bill, and I would like to indicate that it is very important as a country we respect, of course, the elderly people and people who have served in the civil service for a long time. They have experience and they have what it takes to be able to discharge their duties, and we appreciate them. However, as they approach their retirement age, which should be fixed at a maximum of 60 years, we should be able to ensure that they support, they mentor, and they guide younger people who can be able to take over after their service in the civil service. Honorable Speaker, it's important that we guide younger people, we mentor them, we train them, we expose them so that they can get experience that is important for them to continue running different arms of government. I've seen, for example, people who have attained the retirement age, getting extensions from the ministry or from the departmental heads to continue serving. And whereas we continue benefiting from their experience, it also denies us the opportunity of the energy, the vigor, the vision of younger people who are also pretty experienced to continue serving. This also inhibits opportunities for younger people. And of course, you know, we as a country must keep encouraging the youth who must attain the requisite experience. And I want to appreciate that the government has provided a platform for younger people who are coming from the university and graduating to be able to gain experience. Because of course, you know, this has been a major problem where Kenyans have been asked to gain experience before they can apply for jobs. And how will you gain this experience unless you are exposed, unless you get an internship position or experience? And of course, that has been important for our country to ensure that young people are also getting that opportunity. I also want to point out that, to be fair to the people who are retiring, as a country, we must be able to ensure that we have a proper and working pension system. We must improve on what we have today, because I know a lot of people who are retiring have a problem going home because they are not sure that they are going to be taken care of. As a country, we must develop a very good system where we take care of our seniors, because these are people who have served with honor, with dignity. They are people on whose shoulders, as a country, we have been able to stand on. They are people, as a country, we have benefited from. These are people we have drawn energy and experience, skill and information and wisdom from them, and we have received a lot of services from them. And so, as they retire, I want to put it clear that we must also prepare a system where they can be taken care of through a proper working pension system. And this pension system must be released to them, must have the capacity to release to them their benefits without them having to follow up, without having to go and queue in offices for many hours, for many days. So this is a system that surely we must be able to ensure that it's working. Honorable Speaker, we also have another category of people in this country who are appointed in certain acting positions. And they are normally appointed in those positions because we are preparing to hire another person to occupy the position where they are serving. Honorable Speaker, we have seen a situation where people have acted in positions in eternity. We have seen where CEOs have continued to act for so long. And this, unfortunately, does not work well for our governance, because so long as you are acting in a position for so long, then you are easily manipulated. You are manipulatable. You are easily guided or over-guided by the people who have appointed you in that acting position. And of course, it's because you are looking and you are seeking for an opportunity to be confirmed one day. And so, Honorable Speaker, I highly support that we have acting capacity only for 6 months, beyond which we must advertise for that position, either to be filled or we confirm the person who was acting in that capacity as in the position as an acting person. Honorable Speaker, I would also want to advocate, as we develop this or as we amend the laws, that if someone is also acting in that position, they must also get a pay that, or an allowance that is almost equivalent to the person who sits in that position. So we must calculate their salary, get the salary of the position where they are acting, get that difference, and pay them that difference as an acting allowance, so that they do not get subjected to more services and more work without pay. We have to be fair to Kenyans. And so, Honorable Speaker, I really want to support this amendment. I also want to commend the mover of this amendment, Honorable Benjamin Mwangi Gadhiru. This gentleman has proved that he can be able to take care of people who are working for government in this country. And I really want to commend him for having thought about the young people, having thought about making sure that the pension system is working for the retirees, and also ensuring that people do not act for a long time, and those who act either are confirmed or they also paid their acting allowance in accordance with the law. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I appreciate.
The Honorable Jane Kagiri, member for Laikipia County.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute to this amendment bill. Honorable Speaker, first allow me to start by congratulating the member, Honorable Major Dong, for bringing such a very important amendment to this House. Honorable Speaker, for me, I would start by supporting that nobody should act in acting capacity for more than 6 months. This, Honorable Speaker, is because this person lacks stability in their position of work. And first looking at it, nobody would appreciate walking to a job every day, not knowing if tomorrow you'll still be the person serving in that position. That lack of stability, Honorable Speaker, as a country, we can keep complaining of where institutions are not performing, but those are some of the reasons. Because an acting capacity person may not be able to make long-term decisions for an institution, and these long-term decisions eventually affect the country as a whole. Equally, Honorable Speaker, the person may not also know for how long they'll be holding the position, and actually it affects even the projection of their career because of that uncertainty of not knowing how best they should perform, and thus they end up not performing at their optimum. Honorable Speaker, it is also an issue of increased workload to a person in acting capacity, yet in Kenya, we are not running short of people who can perform and work. So, Honorable Speaker, with those few points, I support the amendment bill and strongly support that nobody should actually be in acting capacity beyond 6 months. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Before we proceed, honorable members, I wish to recognize a delegation of staff from the United Republic of Tanzania seated in the Speaker's Gallery. The delegation comprises of 3 members of staff drawn from the Budget Office of the National Assembly of Tanzania. They are welcome to observe the proceedings of the National Assembly, and on behalf of the Right Honorable Substantive Speaker and myself and the rest of the members of the Assembly, I welcome you to Nairobi. Asante. The Honorable Member for Mombasa County, Zamzam Chimba. Oh, sorry, Honorable Zamzam, I've been informed that you had spoken previously on this point. That's okay, I just saw your name on this. The Honorable Adan Haji, member for Mandera West.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I stand to support this amendment. It is very, very important. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, the Public Service Commission is the most important employer in this country. And it is supposed to be looked at as the best employer in the world, in the country, because it is a very old institution. It has gone through a lot of ups and downs. It has been perfected for many years, and therefore is supposed to be the best employer in the country, where other employers, the private sector employers and other employers, are supposed to emulate this public service Public Service Commission. But unfortunately, as time goes on, you see a lot of loopholes within the Public Service Commission. Notably, the number of heads of sagas or organizations or departments of the public who are acting in active position for so many years are just enormous. And this interferes seriously with the performance of those heads of organizations who have been acting. They are at the mercy of their boards because they know at one time they will be called for an interview, and therefore this board is going to interview them or the Public Service Commission, and as long as they're acting, they will not be able to perform effectively because they will try to please those board members who ultimately will interview them, either give them that job or give to somebody else. And in that case, it is very unfortunate that this acting period is too long. So I support that nobody should act more than 6 months. Before the 6 months elapse, the person should either be confirmed or somebody else should be given to that substantive position so that efficiency can take place within the public service. On the issue of retirement age, I also support the amendment as it has been brought. But unfortunately, why many public servants do not want to retire or leave at retirement age is because getting the pension itself is a big, big problem. Public servants retire, and some of them die without getting their pension. It takes too long to pay their pensions. They go around. These are people who have been in the public service for over 30 years or so. They are used to a certain lifestyle, and all of a sudden, when the salaries are stopped because they have retired, no pension, and while looking for their pension, and the pension departments of this country is very corrupt, and they are forced to be corrupting their ways in order to get their pension, and they might not be even able to afford, and hence they get shock of their lives, and many of them die without getting their pension. And therefore, we should come up with also ways and means of ensuring that immediately a public servant retire, he or she must get their pension within a month or two. Otherwise, this delaying of the pension is what is also causing public servants not to be happy to exit the place. They will like to stay there. They will request for extension. They will not be even mentoring their juniors in future, to take over from them because they want to say that there is nobody who is ready to take over from me, and therefore I should get a 5-year extension or 3 years extension just because of the way the situation is ahead there. With that, I support this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable John Waluke, member for Sirisia.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me a chance also to contribute on this amendment bill. Honorable Speaker, people in the civil service in the acting positions suffer. Madam Speaker, someone can act in a position for many years without being confirmed. And there are some even who reach retirement age in acting capacity. So, Madam Speaker, I want to thank the honorable member who has brought this so that we can amend it and support it and pass it. And after passing this bill, Madam Speaker, the implementation committee should immediately act on it so that people can realize and know their position in the civil service. You have been here, even you, Madam Speaker, for some time in this house. We saw the CEO for CDF, Mbuno. I can cite him as an example who acted for 6 years in acting position, Honorable Speaker. And we were wondering why, if someone can act for such a long time as a CEO, 6 years in acting position, Madam Speaker. So I propose and thank the Member of Parliament from Embakasi, who thought it wisely and brought this to the floor of the House so that colleagues can also chat, because we come from the communities and our people are the ones who brought us here, and they are ones who are suffering, especially the teachers. A teacher can stay acting, and that teacher, she or he is teaching for all years, even 10 years, even 15 years. For example, there's a teacher who was in my constituency, Madam Speaker, who was employed when he's remaining only with 15 years to retire. So this is a good bill, and all of us, Madam Speaker, need to pass it, and so that it can help many people. Because somebody can act and, or let me say, Madam Speaker, when you reach 60 years of retirement, there are people, Madam Speaker, who doesn't know, who are not prepared properly that they are going to retire when they reach 60. And you see, it must be that when you reach 60 years or 59 years, you just know that you are reaching 60, and you prepare yourself also to prepare your mind that you are retiring, to pave way for the young people also who are coming up. And this be compulsory that we all civil servants retire when you reach 60. This thing of maybe adding years, there are people, Kenyans even, who have forged their age, and they have maybe some are reaching 70, and their IDs reach, they read 50 or 55, and somebody, because he lied on his or her age. So, Madam Speaker, we need to scrutinize, and we need to pass this bill that when you reach 60, you must retire. So I support this bill, Madam Speaker. Thank you, and I support.
The Honourable Member for Mavoko, Honourable Patrick Makau. Is that there? Oh,
thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, on the onset, let me support this motion of Employment Act. Madam Speaker, yes, I agree with all the speakers that when you look at the retirement age, Madam Speaker, Kenya is in the gap of the developing countries, or it's perceived to be a developed country. So, Madam Speaker, you find someone who is supposed to go home at 60, they are still young. Yes, I know there has been contracts that are being extended to some civil servants, which to me, I find it very okay, because we need to tap the expertise, the institutional memory of some of this. For example, Madam Speaker, yes, I have seen very senior civil servants retire from mainstream professions like engineering, medicine. Madam Speaker, if as a country we can have a data bank where we have such professionals who can be utilized by the nation, so that as much as we want to create jobs for the youth, we create jobs for the unemployed, we maintain and retain those who can add value in the service delivery in this country. Madam Speaker, I just walked in. I have not checked the bill, but I think I thought it's important for me to add my voice on that. I thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Loima, Honourable Prontus West Seat.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to add my force into the debate. Madam Speaker, the issue of acting capacity or person acting for several years has been used by many employers as a way to misuse those who are acting in that capacity, because they know these persons may not be able to actually make decisions that are substantive or profound to ensure that particular institution goes forward. And this is, Madam Speaker, is an abuse, because in most cases, some of these institutions may not be able to move well as it has been actually designed. And you find in most cases this happens in parastatals. Most parastatals are the ones actually putting people in acting capacities for more than actually 5 to 6 years. And you know, most of these people do not even get the benefits at that particular position. They continue earning their salary. If they were an HR person, she or he will continue earning the HR person salary, not in the capacity or as the CEO, despite the fact that this person has added roles and responsibilities. So I think this is actually a misuse and is tantamount to abuse of office. Madam Speaker, one other thing that has not been mentioned is the issue of organizations or companies employing people at on casual basis. There are people who have worked as casual workers for as many as 10, 5, 7 years. And I think the law is very clear that you cannot work as a casual person for more than 3 months. That person has to be confirmed, or if anything, that person has to be discontinued. But this is going on in many organizations, and it has to be looked into, because these people are being exploited, because they are paid very meager wages, and because of their vulnerabilities, they are being misused. So with those few remarks, I support, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Kirinyaga Central, Honourable Joseph Kitari.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this chance. Madam Speaker, I want to support and congratulate the member who has moved this bill, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we know that very many people are graduating from our universities in different disciplines of degrees, but because of these extensions we are getting from the public service, at times they are unable to get jobs within the State Department. Madam Speaker, I want to cite a serious issue that I noted. I'm in the RADED profession, and when they started the ADISASA program, a person who had retired had to get a contract for 2 years to run that. And because of inefficiencies, that's why ADISASA has a problem today, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, if you make it mandatory for when people get to 60, they mandatory go home from the public service, we are opening employment vacancies for our university students. We are parents, and there is this saying that when people get to the age of 60, they say that they are retired, but they are not tired. I think it is good time for people to go and take care of their siblings and their grandchildren. Madam Speaker, I support.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Lamu East, Honourable Rueda Obo.
Asante Bi Speaker kwa kunipatia nami nafasi nichangie katika marekebisho haya. Naunga mkono moja kwa moja, na mwanzo kabla sijaunga mkono ni mshukuru Mheshimiwa Meja Dong Benjamin kwa kuleta mswada huu. Naunga mkono moja kwa moja wafanyikazi wa serikali wote wastaafu kwa miaka 60. Inakuwa kwa sasa vile ilivyo, ni kuwa waziri ana haki au wakubwa wa serikali huko wana haki ya kumwongeza mtu au staff miaka mingine 5, 2, 1 mpaka 5. Hii inadhulumu wengine. Watu wangu wa Boni Forest, watu wangu wa Kiunga, watu wangu wa Faza Ward, kupitia kama kijiji kidogo Mtangawanda, wale ambao hawajui watu hawapati nafasi hizo. Kwa hivyo itakuwa haki kama mwalimu wa kule Kiunga anastaafu miaka 60 na wale wa huku wanaojua watu astaafu hiyo miaka 60. Sio kwa kuwa anajua mtu basi yeye ndo anaweza kuongezewa. Hili naliunga mkono sana, watu wote wa Kenya wote iwe sawa sawa miaka 60. Pia nataka kuunga mkono vile alivyosema hapa kwamba matayarisho yafanywe mapema, kwa sababu kinatukuliwa kama kegezo ili mwingine aendelee kwa kazi kusema utaaluma yake hakuna mwingine ambaye anaweza ifanya. Kwa hivyo ni vizuri vile alivyosema kwamba ule mwenye taaluma ile kabla hajaondoka mwingine atayarishwe aweze kuchukua hiyo nafasi yake. Isiwe kiegezo hiko cha kukosesha wengine kazi kwa sababu kumpendelea mtu mwingine. Pia naunga mkono pale anavyosema wale makatibu washikilizi wasiende zaidi ya miezi 6. Maana kusema la kweli tunapoteza sana, kwa sababu wale wakikaa pale utaona mtu wa katibu amekuja kazini hata hana morali kwa sababu hajui kesho kutakuwa vipi. Kwa hivyo katibu ajue zaidi sana akienda ni miezi 6, either aandikwe au atolewe. Lakini kwa haya yote tunayozungumza iwe ni kwa wale wanaopitia tume ya utumishi ya umma, isiwe pilot marubani au majaji, sieleweke wao pia. Nilikuwa nimeshtuka nikiona wote watabidi wastaafu kwa miaka 60. Pilot kitu inazamfanya astaafu kwa miaka 60, kustaafu yake ni muhimu, ni afya yake ndio muhimu. Daktari akisema huyu hafai kurusha ndege ndio hafai. Lakini mheshimiwa hapa amenihakikishia na tumeona kwamba haya tu ni kwa wale wanaopitia hii tume ya utumishi wa umma. Hata majaji hawako kwenye hii. Kwa hivyo watu wasishtuke wakaona pia ati ni watu wote Kenya. Kuna wale wengine hawapitii huku, wao wataendelea zile sheria zao. Asante Bi Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Nairobi County, Honorable Esther Passaris.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wish to contribute to the Public Service Commission Amendment Bill in the National Assembly Bill number 6 of 2023, brought by Honorable Benjamin Githuru. What I'd like to say, Madam Speaker, is that acting in a position demotivates various employees. And in the public service, we want to have very, very good, motivated employees who are willing to serve. But when you're in an acting position, you feel that, you're actually probably looking for other jobs, not sure whether this is sustainable. You're more focused on whether I'm going to get confirmed or not than in your performance. What I feel is in the private sector, maximum of 3 to 6 months of acting, one is confirmed. I think it is important that the public service also ensures that within 6 months of an employee having been employed and having done the period of acting, that they are confirmed to enable them know whether they are going to be retained and their new terms, if there are any amendments, and their obligations, and that's when they sign their performance agreements. That will actually improve and enhance the services by the public service. When it comes to retirement, Madam Speaker, we have a huge unemployment problem in the country, but I think it's important that we also look at the figures. How many people do we have in the public service every year that are due for retirement? And when we know that we have X number of people that are due for retirement, we also have to know that we have identified the people that will succeed them in those positions. And so mentorship comes in very handy. when sometimes we talk about having a bloated staffing in the public service, there's something that the private sector does that I think the public sector could also do, which is giving people golden handshakes and early retirements so that they can go out there and then you can be able to sustain and maintain the level of employees within the budget. But retirement can be a very painful exercise for a number of people. And I think it is mandatory for government to also look at how we will plan retirements for the people in the public service. They have served this country for many years. Some of them have done amazing good work. Of course, we know that there's also a crop that doesn't do good work, a crop that actually drives the institutions down because of corruption. So training is also very, very important. Training for advancement in your career, training for succession planning, training for retirement planning. I think that if we don't deal with the planning for what happens after 60 within government for the various employees who've served the institutions for very long, we will only see an increase in mental health. Because at 60, people are still vibrant and able, and if that's the only thing they've done, they really need to be held and helped into retirement because they are still useful citizens of our society. I also want to speak to the fact of pension. When somebody is going for retirement and then they struggle and struggle and struggle to get their pension, I think this is really an inhuman thing that we are doing to our various employees. There should be a way for one to immediately be able to access their pension. When we saw the Office of the Auditor General talk about people who are receiving pension that are not actually liable to receive pension, they're actually, it's all corruption. I think we need to really investigate that and protect the pension because the pension is the hard work of the various citizens who have served this country tirelessly. We also have a situation of ghost workers. I think while we are thinking about retiring people at 60, let's look at how many ghost workers do we have in the public service. We need to make sure that we have no ghost workers, we have no corruption when it comes to pension, we're efficient in providing the pensions for those who are going, we're training and helping them be able to deal with retirement when it's due. We're also ensuring that we're training the generation that is coming in. Government used to be, celebrated for the kind of training that it did for its employees, but we've seen a drop in that, and that's why you're seeing that there's also laxity when it comes to confirming people that are acting, and this could be another way to breed corruption, because you know what, if you want me to confirm you in an acting position, then you got to pay a price. I think when we tie all these loopholes and make things mandatory, and that is why I commend the honorable member for bringing this, when it's mandatory, then we don't have all these loopholes where it's, you scratch my back, I scratch yours, you give me something and I'll make sure that you are confirmed. So I think I'll be bringing a question to ask really, how many are the numbers of people that are due for retirement? Are they still in the service? What was the reason for the extension? How many people do we have that are in acting capacity? And why are they still acting? So we can see which public institutions are actually not adhering to the law to ensure that they treat their employees humanely. And as a society, recently we discussed the need to respect our elders. You know, a person who reaches 60, right, is not somebody that is useless to the society. They come with a lot of wisdoms, and that's why we recently talked about helping us recognize our wazays in the community and giving them something. So maybe there will be a room for us to ensure that you have advisors that can come in once in a while to interact with the various ministries they served and be able to contribute. And I think public participation does that, but they could have a platform because there is a lot of wisdom in experience, and that is something that the young generation will not have immediately, but they will acquire. So all in all, I support the amendments, and I look forward to us as a country becoming more sensitive to how we treat our employees, becoming more sensitive to how we reward and celebrate those who have served in the interest of the public and dedicated their lives towards public service. Thank you. I support.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Gonzi Rai, member for Kinango. please try to trace a working mic? Okay, you may proceed on the one on your right.
Asante sana, Bi Speaker. Mimi pia nami ningetaka kutoa sauti yangu kuhusiana na hii hoja iliyoko mbele yetu. Bi Speaker, hii hoja imekuja kwa wakati mwafaka kwa sababu tunapozungumzia masuala haya ya kazi, nafikiri ni muhimu tufahamu kwamba lengo kubwa hasa la hoja hii ni kutaka kuboresha morali za wafanyikazi katika hii Public Service Commission kwa sababu ya ule ugandamizaji ambao uko hasa katika sekta hii. Bi Speaker, kumekuwa na hatari ambazo zimekuwa zikifanyika hasa watu ambao wako katika sehemu kame kama kule kwangu Kinango. Mtu, Bi Speaker, penginepo mwalimu anaenda zake ama anaenda retirement na mwalimu anayemshikilia atapewa nafasi ile na atakaa pale kwa muda wa karibu miaka 6, na unaona kwamba huyu mwalimu anatosha kuchukua hiyo nafasi, lakini kwa sababu ya kutojua ni nani wa kunisaidia, inakuwa ni kwamba akae mahali pale miaka 6 na mwisho wake aje aletewe mwalimu mwingine na yeye aendelee tu kuwa yeye anashikilia nafasi ya kuwa naibu wa mwalimu mkuu. Hili ni jambo ambalo linavunja moyo sana, kwa sababu wakati unapofanya kazi inahitajika tajiri awe anaelewa tabu zako na mashaka yako, ili wakati wote awe anatosheka kile unachokifanya, kwa sababu chote ni faida kwa serikali, na ni muhimu yeye pia naye ajisikie kwamba yuko kazini na anafurahikia kazi yake. Bi Speaker, tumekuwa na machifu na hasa tumekuwa na wafanyikazi ambao wako katika sehemu kame, na utakuta kwamba kwa mfano kule Kinango walimu tunawapatia hardship allowance, lakini machifu ambao wameajiriwa kule, madisi walioko kule, madio walioko kule hawapati hardship allowance, ama wafanyikazi wengine wote hawapati hardship allowance. Na tukiuliza hii shida inatokana na nini, Bi Speaker, hakuna la mwanya isipokuwa ni kuzungushwa. Na ndio maana mara nyingi mkaguzi wa hisabu huja hapa mwaka nenda miaka rudi akituletea kwamba mtu anaenda retire na baada ya kwenda retire anashikiliwa, lakini mtu yule haondoki katika orodha ya wafanyikazi, na ndio maana huwa yatakikana yule mwenye kumshikilia akae pale kama miaka 19 ili watu waendelee kupokea pesa za yule ambaye ameenda retire. Na la kustaajabisha zaidi ni kwamba hata wakati mwingine machifu kama wanakwenda kustaafu wanapewana notice ya mapema kwamba muda fulani unaenda likizo ukisubiri retire, lakini hayo yatafanyika, na baada ya kumaliza likizo yake na kuanza kustaafu kwake, malipo yake yanachukua karibu miaka 6, miaka 4, hata wengine wanakufa kabla ya kupata pesa zao. Kuwe na utaratibu maalum wa kujua kwamba kama ni mwalimu, kama ni chief ama mfanyikazi yeyote mwingine anapokwenda kustaafu, kuwe na mipango mahususi ya kujua kwamba baada ya miezi 6 ama miezi 3 mtu yule anapata haki yake, maana watu wengi tunawaua sisi, na ni jambo la kusikitisha, kwa sababu kama hilo tunaweza kukosa kuwa na mipango nalo. Na mara kwa mara tunasikia kwamba wizara hii ina wafanyikazi gushi wengi na wote wanalipwa mishahara, lakini aliyefanya kazi kwa kujitolea katika nchi hii anabaki akisubiri malipo yake ya uzeeni na hawezi kupata. Bi Speaker, ni jambo ambalo lingehitaji kuangaliwa kwa ndani, na nimshukuru mheshimiwa aliyeleta hii hoja kwa sababu alijua ni kitu gani ambacho kingehitajika kuangaliwa ili tukapate kuleta ukarabati wa kuleta uwiano katika huu taratibu ambao uko hapa katika hii bill. Kwa hayo machache, Bi Speaker, naomba niseme asante sana kwa kunipa nafasi, ili lengo ilikuwa nitoe tu sauti yangu, na Mungu natubariki.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, time allocated for this motion has ended, and I therefore now call upon the mover to reply. Mover?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And before I reply, I would wish to donate 3 minutes to Honorable Kiragu, member for Limuru, and 2 minutes to Honorable Boko Milemba. Then the rest I will use. Thank you.
To the member for Limuru?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to support this bill, and as I do so, Madam, I support this mandatory retirement at the age of 60 because it will open many opportunities for younger people to get into public service. However, Madam Speaker, we know that at the age of 60, that is not the end of life. There is opportunities in the private sector, and these are people with experience, and they will have resources and experience to engage in many other things. Madam Speaker, I'm one of those people who retired voluntarily at the age of 40, and as I stand here, I know it pays. Madam Speaker, some of the problems we have with the early retirement or during retirement is the people who are allowed to act for such a long time. And sometimes the ones who are acting end up losing because sometimes it is just manipulation to ensure that they don't get their benefits at the end. And Madam Speaker, I propose that in fact, as those people who are in service lose benefits, it is important, Madam Speaker, to punish those people who sleep on their job, to make sure that even them, they pay for not doing their job. Madam Speaker, I propose when it comes to the committee of the whole House to bring an amendment to ensure that those people who sleep on the job and watch on people acting for longer periods than 6 months, Madam Speaker, they should pay for it. Madam Speaker, I support. Thank you.
The Honorable Omboko Milemba.
Emuhaya. Thank you. Honorable Speaker, I want to thank you for this opportunity and also thank Honorable Major Dong for bringing this very good bill and at the timely time. Is basically moving the retirement age from a regulation to an act so that enforcement can be done strictly. Because the gap has been that when retirement age remained as a regulation, then it was being manipulated with those CEOs and people in power to see who they will give addition and whom they will not give. But with this bill now, then it becomes an act of parliament which can be enforced very, very strongly, and I want to thank you for that. Number two, Honorable Speaker, the acting has been really misused. Currently, many public servants are in acting position for more than even 3 years. And it's denying them their due value for the job they are giving. At the Teacher Service Commission, it's worse because more than half of the deputies and heads are actually in acting position. And the worst thing happened, Honorable Speaker, that SRC removed the acting allowance that used to be there for those who are in the acting positions. So this then affirms that every worker, including the commission, specifically Teacher Service Commission, if they act for more than 6 months, then they should be paid for the acting or confirmed as permanent. And finally, Honorable Speaker, though not captured clearly, will be the issue of the pensions, which we need to deal with. Currently, many workers, teachers in particular, about 8,000, have left the job, but they have not been paid the pension. And all those forms are lying at the Treasury or the Pensions Department. This is another area we need to fix so that immediately a worker retires, a teacher retires, within a period of less than 3 months, this person should have started getting the pension. Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker, and the mover of the motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In replying, I would like to thank each and every member who have listened in support of this bill and for their kind words. The honorable members have pointed out so many gaps within our Public Service Commission and given varied examples to support bills, while some members have supported it and pointed out areas that this House needs to conduct further deliberation during the third reading. And in this, I would wish to support Honorable Kiragu, member for Rimuru, and Honorable Boko Miremba, member for Mhaya, on bringing the amendment during the Committee of the Whole House to make sure that even the employer or appointing agent or a person responsible for the mess are also punished. Madam Speaker, from the debate, it is clear there is need for clarity. You will find that this bill is not changing anything to do with retirement age. It is moving the retirement age from being part of regulation to being part of an act of parliament. So, in terms of enforcement, it will give more powers and help firm up the process of implementation across the public service. Further, this bill provides for the penal provision in this event that the appointing authority allows a person enacting in appointment for a period of more than 6 months and to recourse with regards to acting allowance thereof upon the lapse of the acting period. Madam Speaker, from the contribution of members, it is clear that we all agree there is need for amendment to address the issue of succession planning by the Public Service Commission and other service commission, and ensure that those service commission take necessary steps to ensure that they train the other persons in organization to replace retiring officers as well as those exiting the service. Madam Speaker, I sincerely thank the Labour Committee led by the chairperson, Honorable Karemba, for their consideration and input on the bill. However, Madam Speaker, I totally disagree with the committee recommendation on changing the period for replacing officers serving in acting position from 6 months to 12 months. This negates the demand for good corporate governance through succession planning, since the public service, as asserted by Honorable Nabi Nambuela, is a going concern, and therefore gaps need to be filled prior to the retirement age. As posed by Honorable Kikaria before this House, an institution must always prepare itself for transition. We should not be talking about 12 months for an institution to prepare for recruitment. The big question is what stops the institution from starting recruitment for replacement 12 months before someone retires. At this time, at the same time, I disagree with the recommendation by Honorable Mugambi Ridikiri on amending Section 81, since this section gives room for officers who would wish to retire early to do so after attaining the age of 50 by giving the authorized officer employer at least 3 months notice, which in the spirit of the amendment proposed in the bill. That is, to encourage old Kenyans to embrace retirement so as to create more employment opportunity for the youth. Equally, I thank the fellow members who have found some part of the bill being punitive and discriminatory. It is with much humility I remind this House that we need to continue coming up with registration and proposals to better the public service, to which I invite members to make further amendment during the Committee of the Whole House. As I conclude, Madam Speaker, I would like to use this opportunity in trying to give hope to our youth that this House will continue making legislation that will ensure that many years spent in school gaining knowledge and skills will result in meaningful employment. At the same time, let us give hopes to our junior officers whose goal and aspiration in public service are to be promoted to higher offices, that this bill, by introducing succession planning, will make their dreams more realizable. With those few remarks, the power to see the change we will all aspire for. With those few remarks, I beg to reply, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Benjamin Gathiro. Honorable members, question to be put for this motion is hereby deferred. Next order.
Order number 13, the Cotton Industry Development Bill, Senate Bill number 5 of 2023. Second reading.
The Honorable Mary Emase.
Thank you, Madam Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to move that the Cotton Industry Development Bill 2023, Senate Bill number 5 of 2023, be now read a second time. Honorable Speaker, this bill seeks to provide for the production, processing, marketing, and distribution of cotton in Kenya and its products. The bill also seeks to establish the Cotton Industry Board, and this bill also seeks to provide a framework for cotton farming, ensure value addition to cotton and its related products, and for connected purposes. Honorable Speaker, before I delve deeper into the contents of the bill, allow me present a synopsis of the history of cotton in this country to enable members better appreciate the intention of the bill. Honorable Speaker, cotton farming started in this country way back in 1907, and it reached its peak in 1985, where cotton was the main exchange earner, foreign exchange earner for this country. Honorable Speaker, indeed, cotton was a valuable cash crop that sustained many families in the areas that did cotton farming. I come from the Lake region, where cotton was one of the main cash crops. I remember picking cotton. I remember seeing cotton in almost every farm in my neighborhood. But today, Madam Speaker, the story is different. In the 70s and the 80s, Kenya produced close to 100,000 bales of cotton. And this compares very well with our neighboring countries like Tanzania and Uganda. Uganda produced 400,000 bales of cotton, while Tanzania produced 700,000 bales of cotton then. So what does this mean, Madam Speaker? That there's a lot of potential in cotton farming. We used to have millers, industries like the Kisumu cotton millers, famously known as Kikomi then, that used to do the ginning. But by 2014, we were hardly producing 25,000 bales of cotton. And today, we can hardly produce 7,000 bales, which translates to 3,000 metric tons of lint. So what happened? Where did the rain start beating us? The collapse of cotton farming in Kenya is blamed on a number of factors. one of them being poor performance on weak farmer organizations. It is also blamed on a high cost of production, the inadequate quality inputs of poor seeds is also a contributor to the collapse of cotton industry. Over-reliance on rain-fed production, and also the middlemen. In fact, currently, there's still a lot of confusion. Those who have already registered to be cotton farmers and have started planting cotton do not even know where to take their cotton to. The ginaries that have been operationalized are very few and sparsely distributed, in further increasing the cost of transportation and giving an advantage to middlemen to take over and earn from the sweat of the cotton farmers. Madam Speaker, also lack of research and development. Because the last time this country did any serious research and development on cotton and produced improved seed was in 1989. So, Madam Speaker, during the cotton boom in the 70s and the 80s, the government had supported the industry through the Cotton Board of Kenya, which had organized marketing strategies. And therefore, farmers were paid, they were being such as Raymond's, Rift Valley Textiles, that's the Rivertex, as well as Kikomi. We had ginning factories built across the country, in Malindi, Klindini, Kisumu, and at that time there were even experimental farms for research and development in Malindi, Mombasa, Voi, and even Kibos in Kisumu. But the textile market was liberalized in 1991. After it was liberalized in 1991, the board became ineffective. Importation of second-hand clothes commenced. And therefore, this posed a serious challenge to the local clothes industry, and farms gradually collapsed. So what are we saying? That this can be reversed. These challenges can be addressed. And therefore, the sector still has a huge potential. Even those that have been revived, all of them are private ginaries except one, Luanda in Busia County. A lot still needs to be done because there is great potential that is untapped and that can create a lot of employment opportunities. Today, we only have 3 existing factories, Rivertex, Supra, and Thika Textiles. These 3 require 100,000 bales of lint, which is equivalent to 45,000 metric tons, to operate at optimum capacity. But the current production, like I said earlier, is only 7,000. So what happens to the balance? The balance is being imported from the neighboring countries, from Sudan, from Uganda, and even Tanzania. And this is what we could actually engage our farmers to begin to produce so that we create more value and then we benefit our farmers in this country. So among the ginaries that we have Meru ginary in Meru, we have Sugin in Tarakanidi, we have Kitui in Kitui, there's Makueni ginary in Makueni, we have Salawa in Baringo, and we have Luanda in Busia. Honorable Speaker, so many others have not been operationalized. Even in Busia County, where I come from, we still have Amukura ginaries, we have the Malakisi ginaries. We only have one in Luanda, and for a farmer in Teso North or Teso South to transport his cotton all the way to Luanda in Funyula, it is quite a distance. So, and there are so many of these ginaries across the country in other places that may require to be operationalized if we are to achieve our objective. So, Honorable Speaker, in short, I'm just saying that the average ginning capacity utilization across ginaries is less than 25% due to low supply of the raw materials. That is the seed cotton. Further, in 2019, the country embraced BT cotton so as to scale up cotton production. BT cotton is a high-yield, pest-resistant, and drought-tolerant improved breed of cotton. But it was so expensive that very few farmers were onboarded through subsidy that it did not take off. But I'm happy that currently the government has taken it up in the list of farmers who have just been registered. They were supplied with BT cotton, and we're expecting to get better yields and better output out of those interventions. A few farmers were accommodated then. This is very important because we are setting up industrial parks. They are expected to do ginning, cloth making, textile, create employment opportunities. This cotton seed can also be used to make cotton seed cakes that can be used in a dairy farming, thereby increasing production of milk and bring down the cost of milk, and that all will create a lot of opportunities for our farmers. Having said that, Madam Speaker, allow me go back to the bill. Honourable members, like I said, this bill, the objects of this bill is to promote globally competitive cotton industry. The bill seeks to facilitate the production, value addition, and processing of safe and healthy cotton and its products. The bill is providing a framework that will promote the generation of high income for cotton farmers and traders. This bill is providing a framework for the continuous and sustained research and extension services for the development of the cotton industry, and to facilitate the introduction of modern cotton farming techniques and the general modernization of the cotton industry. And this bill is to provide a framework for the provision of financial support to the various players in the cotton industry. This is contained in Part 1, and also in Part 1 provides interpretation of a number of terminologies that will be used in this bill. Definition of the board, cabinet secretary, chief executive officer, cotton industry, which includes growers, ginners, spinners, and cotton value addition industries. So basically, Part 1 is on interpretation and gives the object of this bill. Part 2, honorable members, speaks to the establishment of a cotton industry board, that there shall be established a cotton industry board, and it goes further to give the powers of the board. The board will have a headquarters located in Nairobi, but the board will also, at its own discretion, decide to open an office in any other location in the country for purposes of efficiency and effective management of its affairs. Honorable members, the bill also speaks to the composition of the board, which will have a chairperson who will be appointed by the president. It will have a total membership of 9 members. It also speaks to the qualifications of the members of the board. 3 of them shall have degrees. The chairperson, the nominee of the apex body of the cotton industry, and also a nominee of the Council of Governors shall have a degree. But the rest of the other 6 members who will be representing the cotton farmers, one from each region specified in the second schedule, will only require to have a certificate in secondary school education. So that particular clause 8 speaks to the qualifications for appointment into the board. It also speaks to the tenure of those board members, which is 3 years. It speaks of what it will take for you to vacate office. And some of these are standard procedures as per our constitution that apply to all the bills. I believe members, you have a copy of the bill. That a person shall cease to be a member of the board if that person is absent without reasonable cause for 3 consecutive meetings, becomes an officer or an agent or a member of staff of the board, and many others. This bill also speaks to the functions of the board. That this board will be the board that shall regulate and promote the development of the cotton growing and cotton ginning. That it will advise the cabinet secretary which counties qualify as cotton producing. It shall also make recommendations to the cabinet secretary on the implementation of the strategies, plans, and policies relating to the cotton sector, and that it shall regulate the import and export of cotton lint and cotton seed, and promote the marketing of cotton products and byproducts in both local and foreign markets. Honorable members, this part 2 of the bill also speaks to the committee of the board and the delegations by the board. Honorable members, the bill further speaks to appointment of the chief executive officer and the functions of the chief executive officer, and that a person is qualified for appointment as the chief executive officer if that person is a Kenyan citizen and holds a degree from a university recognized in Kenya and has at least 10 years of experience. I have to mention that because I know that will be of interest to the members. Honorable members, the bill also speaks to the functions of the chief executive officer, because this person is the officer who will be responsible for the day-to-day management of the affairs of the board. Manage the funds, be responsible for management of the staff of the board, oversee and coordinate the implementation of the policies and programs and objectives of the board, and also cause to be prepared for approval of the board, the strategies, the strategic plan, and the annual plan of the board, and the annual budget and audited accounts of the board. Honorable members, the bill also, in part 2, still speaks to the removal from office of the chief executive officer. Those are standard procedures. I'll not go into details because this is what we go through every day. If you are bankrupt, if you are found liable for gross misconduct, if you are convicted of criminal offense, or if you resign in writing, and many others. This bill also speaks to the staff of the board, protection from personal liability, the common seal of the board, signing authority, that all letters and instruments written or made on behalf of the board shall, on behalf of the board, and other than those required by law, be under seal. It speaks to the meetings, when they should meet. Honorable members, part 3 of the bill, this is important, speaks to the role of the county government. This being a devolved function, and that is why this bill originates from the Senate, that the county government will have a bigger part, a bigger role to play. That each county government shall implement the national government policy relating to the cotton sector. They will regulate and promote the development of the cotton industry within the respective county. That they shall consider applications for the certificates, permits, and licenses. That each county government will coordinate the activities of the persons, organizations, and any other associations within the cotton industry in the respective county, and will facilitate access by players in the cotton industry to such resources and financial support as may be necessary to promote the development of the cotton industry in the respective county. And also I want to mention something on registration. This is very critical, and that is in part 5 of the bill, that a person or entity shall not carry out the business of cotton grower, of a cotton grower, cotton giner, cotton cooperative society, or a cotton association, unless such a person is registered by the respective county government in which the business is undertaken. Notwithstanding subsection 1, a grower who is registered member of a cooperative or a cotton association which is registered by a county government shall be exempted from registration by the county government. Because if you're already registered by the cooperative society or by the cotton association, you do not have to be registered again by the county government. That subsection 2 shall apply to a grower on condition that the cooperative society or cotton association is registered in the same county. So you cannot be registered in another county and then you seek exemption in this county. It has to be within the same county. Honorable members, the bill also speaks to the bill speaks about the role of the county government, and the bill also, under clause 32, that the county executive committee member shall designate such collection centers as the member shall, in consultation with cotton growers in the county, determine. Remember that a cooperative society shall be formed in every ward. And these cooperative societies manage the farmers' distribution of inputs, controlling of pesticide, collection of cotton. So centers have to be designated where cotton is collected and deposited before other processes. So, honorable members, this bill is a very important bill. I want to seek all of us to support because it's for purposes of improving cotton farming in this country. And when you look at Part 5 on miscellaneous provisions, each county government may enact county-specific legislation. It talks about the legislation that will have to follow, and the criteria for registration of cotton grower within each respective county. So each respective county is given leeway to be able to process its own legislation. Honorable members, and in Part 7 has transition provisions, whereby clause 51, it says that on the appointed day, all rights, obligations, and contracts which immediately before the coming into operation of this act were vested or imposed on the Agricultural and Food Authority, AFA, with respect to the cotton sector, shall, by virtue of this section, be deemed to be rights, obligations, and contracts of the board as the case may be. This transfers all contracts, litigation, funds, assets now to the board, so that the board takes responsibility. Any reference in any other legislation that refers to Agriculture and Food Authority in any written law or on any contract or document or instrument of whatever nature in relation to cotton shall, on the appointment day, be read and construed as reference to the board. So, honorable members, I urge all of you to support this bill, and before I close, I want to take this opportunity to thank Honorable Betty Siengo, who was the originator of this bill in the Senate, who is my co-sponsor, and I urge members, especially those from the cotton growing regions, we know what it meant to our farmers when cotton was doing very well in this country. We need to reclaim the glory of cotton. Government is ready to support. Even we were looking at the budget policy statement yesterday. The cotton industry, the revival of the cotton industry is key. It has been captured and it's been taken by the Ministry of Trade as one of their core priority areas. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I move.
Who is seconding your motion, Honorable Mose?
I would like to request Honorable Ijendi Malulu, member for Malava, to second.
Honorable Malulu Ijendi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I arise to second this bill, Madam Speaker, with a lot of nostalgia because of partly what she has said, what cotton was for our country then, particularly in Western Kenya. Madam Speaker, I would like also to thank this government that it's now focusing really in Western Kenya, reviving most of the sectors that had collapsed, cotton being one of them. Madam Speaker, this was a sector that was booming in the 1970s and 1980s. And interestingly, this just went down, and the people who are practicing this, Madam Speaker, began suffering. Madam Speaker, besides cotton production that actually collapsed in the 1990s, we've also seen that sugarcane production also faced the same fate that used to boom those years, but somehow it just went dead in Western Kenya. Madam Speaker, also when you focus on tea farming in Vihiga particularly, Madam Speaker, it also faced a similar fate. Same also applied to paper production by our pan paper mills that also died in the 1990s. So, Mr. Speaker, maybe most of us may wonder why this collapsed. Most of them collapsed because of the liberalization processes that were there then in the 1990s. And this got Kenya unawares in terms of managing their sectors. Kenya, what I'm saying with a lot of nostalgia, because it was the third largest producer of cotton in East Africa. And this was really considered as a key player in the industrialization process of the country. So you recall, because we have slowed down on industrialization, Madam Speaker, because these sectors actually collapsed, as I've mentioned them. Madam Speaker, during that particular period, you know, we used to hear of Kikomi. Kikomi was a household name in our region, Western Kenya. And I know we also had other ginaries elsewhere that were famous for what it was doing for the country in terms of production of clothing, production of blankets, Madam Speaker, and even employment. And this Kikomi, maybe for those who don't know, it was Kisumu Cotton Mills, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, with this liberalization in the 1990s, it's when production began to fall, because now with the free market, the prices were left to the market forces, and because of that, prices began to fall. And when it began to fall now, it was not matching what the farmers were producing. Most of the cooperatives, because of competition and because of now, and unfortunately, interestingly, during this particular time, corruption actually set in, affecting cooperatives because of brokers. And this also affected producer prices, affecting also cost of farm inputs. Pesticides became so expensive to access by farmers. And then also at that particular time, Madam Speaker, there was a delayed payment to farmers. And you can see when it comes to delayed payment, this has been affecting even Mumias, our giant in sugarcane production. But even right now, you find that farmers have stayed for 2 years, like what you have seen in Mumias, what you have seen in Zoya factory, sugar factory, that farmers, after supplying, they stay for 2 years without any payment. And Madam Speaker, you cannot expect a farmer to continue producing when this is happening. So, Madam Speaker, this collapse has caused a lot of suffering to most of the Kenyans, and particularly persons who are much dependent on this in Western Kenya. This bill I support fully because it's like a wake-up call to reorganize the sector. Madam Speaker, with this bill, when it comes to reorganization, it will actually reorganize the production of cotton, reorganize processing, marketing, and the distribution of this particular crop in the country. And when this is reorganized, Madam Speaker, the beneficiary will be the farmer. The beneficiary will be the Kenyan country. We will reclaim our lost glory when it comes to production of our crops, and also when it comes to stability financially in the country. Madam Speaker, I've also noted that this bill seeks to establish a cotton industry development board. This is key to revitalizing the industry. A recent case, because cotton was the first one to collapse, then sugar production in the country was next. You recall in 2010, very recent, is when the sugar board actually died because of the 2010 constitution. Madam Speaker, this is when we began suffering really in our sugar production. And the recent act, the recent bill we passed here, which is in the Senate, the Sugar Act bill, Madam Speaker, it seeks to revive the sugar board, Kenya Sugar Board, which will actually have control and create control and order in sugar production sector. So this establishment of this board, Madam Speaker, will go a long way in ensuring that there is order. Because when there's no order in a particular sector, then you realize this is when corruption will thrive. This is when the economy will lose money, will lose labor, will lose all that it loses because of corruption. So what we have to note, as much as I've talked of cotton production being majorly, affecting us as farmers, I'm just citing this as a case because I come from Western Kenya, where this was really key. But we are aware cotton production is suitable in actually 24 counties in this country, 24 counties. And they include counties in Western region, Rift Valley, Nyanza, and even Coast region. Madam Speaker, why this bill is timely, I have some roots in Kikomba market. Some members here may not believe, I've also had some business, Mitumba, sell. So because of that, I normally visit my colleagues that we used to be there to see how the business is doing. Madam Speaker, these persons in Kikomba are really suffering. You know, like me, the Mitumba I used to sell used to come from UK. Presently, these people I used to work with there, they are crying. Mitumba now from UK are not available. And they come after like 3 months, 4 months, but very expensively. So the only Mitumba they are accessing now is Mitumba from China. And when you look at even the present generation, the kind of clothes our youth are putting on, you see it's a reflection of the China culture, you know, in terms of size and everything else. So, Madam Speaker, if we revive cotton production in this country, even our business persons in Kikomba will benefit because they will start accessing these clothings cheaply within the country, and this will promote actually our economy and promote even these persons who rely on Mitumba sale, who will now access their own clothing from the region. So, Madam Speaker, I want to thank my sister Mary Massey for this bill, and I second. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Jendi. Honorable members, I would like to recognize students seated in the public gallery this morning. Students from Porterhouse Primary School in Westlands in Nairobi. You are welcome to the National Assembly to observe proceedings of the House. Honorable members, I now propose the question that the Cotton Industry Development Bill, Senate Bill number 5 of 2023, be read a second time. Honorable members, the first opportunity will go to the chairman, John Mutunga, member for Tigania. Chair Agriculture.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this very important bill. Honorable Speaker, I would like first of all to thank the Honorable Emase and the Senator who came up with this bill. Honorable Speaker, the two are doing this country a great job because cotton is one of the most important forgotten value chains in this country. It is forgotten because we have not been keen at supporting this particular value chain for a while. Many intervening factors have led to this particular situation as it is right now, and therefore the bill could not have come at a better time. The bill speaks to the development of the entire industry. It speaks to providing for production of cotton in a variety of ways. It speaks to processing of the cotton. In other words, it's very emphatic on the value addition of the cotton itself. It speaks to the products that come from the cotton as a crop. It also speaks to the marketing aspect of it and then distribution of the cotton and cotton products. Honorable Speaker, if you look at those aspects of the value chain, production, many Kenyans, especially Kenyans in the medium and low altitude, would benefit immensely if they engaged in cotton. But such benefits are not accruable if they produced cotton and they didn't know where to take it. And I'll be talking about that in a moment. Many Kenyans would engage in processing of cotton, and processing of cotton has huge opportunities in the sense that, first of all, it will engage many people in terms of employment. It would also lead to value addition of the products themselves. It would open opportunities for Kenya to sell our products in other parts of the world. So it would therefore bring the very scarce foreign exchange or foreign currency. So cotton is a huge contributor to development of our country. So establishing the Cotton Industry Board is key as brought in this particular bill. And I want to specifically recognize the fact that it is being called Cotton Industry Board. It is not a cotton production and regulation. It is a cotton industry board. And in this case, the board encompasses almost everything that will happen in that particular value chain. Therefore, it provides for the framework for cotton farming, and that identification of the areas where cotton is going to be produced, the approaches that are going to be used in the production of cotton itself, the engagement of the different producers of the cotton, and promotion of the cotton production, as it were. It basically looks at the value addition in the cotton industry. And value addition in this particular case starts right from the farm. Having good lint produced or good cotton products from the farm, the separation of the seed, the contaminants from the lint itself at the spinning level or at the ginnery level, the activities that go on in textile milling, in spinning and others, so that you can produce the apparels and clothes. So cotton is really key as a crop in this country. The bill speaks of generation of high income. In other words, the sector itself can lead to a lot of income generation through cotton farming and cotton trading. Cotton manufacturing, as it were, also leads to engagement of our people. The bill basically gives us the opportunity to focus a lot closer on the technologies that are necessary in the cotton industry. It helps us to focus on or encourage our researchers to innovate different varieties of cotton based on the agroecologies of this particular country. It helps us to challenge our universities and research institutions to come up with management practices that will be appropriate for cotton development in this particular country. So it is specifically focuses on the research in, or giving us an environment to intensify research in the cotton industry. So the bill is key in the sense that it reorganizes the cotton sector, reorganizes effort within the cotton sector, and enables technologies, innovations, and management practices to be upgraded in this country. The bill will help us to promote the use of cotton. Uses of cotton are many. There is the production of textiles and apparels, which at the end of the day end up into the clothing industry. And the clothing industry is huge. There is also the production of livestock feed. Honourable Speaker, I'll pause there to explain how this country suffers, especially when it comes to raw materials for livestock feed production. We have had to import concentrates, rather not concentrates, we have had to import the protein components of the livestock feed, which are basically the industrial byproducts of cotton, sunflower, and others. So the cotton seed, after extraction of the oil, is used for livestock feed manufacturing. It's a major component in livestock feed manufacturing. This, Honourable Speaker, we have been importing from other countries like Tanzania and Uganda. The bill gives us an opportunity to boost the textile industry in this country. The textile industry is key. The textile industry, even under the circumstances, even after the huge interference by introduction of the second-hand clothes in the market, is still the second most important employer in this country. Evidently, there are shops all over, and most of those shops sell cotton products. But if you ask yourselves, how many of these cotton products are Kenyan in origin, made of cotton from our farmers, there will be very few. So there is need for us to focus on reorganizing this industry. And that is why the sponsors of this bill have really hit where it matters. In this country, historically, Honourable Speaker, cotton peaked in terms of performance in 1984. That is the time when we were able to produce over 70,000 bales of cotton in 1984. That time, we had many textile industries, textile mills. We had around 52 textile mills in this country. That time, many people were engaged in the cotton industry. That time, we were producing a lot of clothing and apparel, textiles and apparels of our own. And that time, indeed, Honourable Speaker, the textile and clothing industry was the second highest employer in this country. But unfortunately, so many things that happened to the sector, and the Honorable Emase has very ably articulated, have led to this particular industry or value chain being affected considerably. The mills have reduced from 52 to a mere 15, if they are working. The employment has gone down considerably. There has been collapse of the industry. So we are talking about collapse of the cotton industry. Therefore, the bill comes to resuscitate this particular industry. Madam Speaker, we can sometimes explain ourselves out of the global reforms, the global economic reforms. We can bring in the issues of structural adjustment programs of the 1980s. We can bring in the many liberalization, trade liberalization attributes, and say that that is why cotton industry collapsed. But, Honorable Speaker, the truth is that we stopped supporting this particular industry. We stopped supporting the farmers of this country. We had generalists all over, but today we have a penalty 15 in this country. Honorable Speaker, the current production out of a peak of 70,000 bales that time is only about 7,000 tons. But the country has huge potential for producing up to or beyond 200,000 metric tons. It is possible for us to move the production from 7,000 metric tons currently to more than 200,000 metric tons. Let's look at the impact of having 193,000 metric tons more of cotton in this country. It would mean many more Kenyans engaged in production. It would mean many more Kenyans engaged in the handling of the cotton itself, in the harvesting of the cotton itself. It would mean many more generators revitalized or rehabilitated or refurbished to possibly process this cotton. It would mean many more vehicles used to transport the cotton. It would mean many more industries opened. What that would mean is many more Kenyans earning a living. It would mean many more Kenyans employed. We suffer as a country huge unemployment in terms of per capita. Our unemployment rate is extremely high. But we have opportunities here, God-given opportunities in this country, which we can embark on and do a great job. Honorable Speaker, this very important industry in the just concluded or the ongoing process of allocating money for next financial year, in the budget policy statement, Honorable Speaker, this particular important industry has been given or allocated only 170 million shillings. 170 million shillings looking at the other sectors is peanuts. It's very little. Looking at the Kenyan budget of more than 4 trillion is almost nothing. And this is the industry which has the greatest potential to employ Kenyans. Right now, Honorable Speaker, our president is moving from country to country to negotiate bilateral labor agreements, to open up avenues for Kenyans to work out there in those countries. We are looking for opportunities to engage our young Kenyans. We have more than 4 million graduates in this country, highly qualified, looking for jobs. On this other hand, we have a God-given opportunity to employ millions of Kenyans in this industry. And we have the farms. And luckily, we have a hard-working community of farmers who are ready and willing to do whatever it takes as long as you guarantee the market for their products. Honorable Speaker, something is wrong. We need to correct ourselves. We need a national conversation on the Kenya that can help us out. Because the configuration of the current Kenya, Honorable Speaker, is not helping us out significantly. So cotton can solve most of those problems. Cotton can create that really needed employment. Cotton can bring in foreign exchange. We have an AGOA agreement. African growth and growth opportunities agreement, where the American government has given us unlimited access of their market with our cotton products as long as they are from Kenya. Unscrupulous traders have even tried to misuse this particular opportunity. But as a nation and as a government, we need to focus on producing cotton in this country, and we shall exploit this particular opportunity and bring in the dollar that is very much needed in this country. So this potential is lying out there. This potential does not require a lot of effort. The physiology of cotton, Honourable Speaker, is such that it's a crop that can grow in the medium to low altitudes. Medium to low altitude areas are warm areas. They are warm in the sense that it can occupy some of the arsal, arid and semi-arid lands. This country has over 80% of arsal. We only have about 16% of what we call Arab land. And that Arab land is where you can grow a crop and expect to get yields from the rain, where you can do rain-fed agriculture. But on this other hand, we have a lot of land in the semi-arid areas, the marginal areas, and that is the area that cotton will occupy. Honourable Speaker, our research institutions have not been left behind. They have been working on cotton, different varieties of cotton. Indeed, in the Kenya Agriculture and Livestock Research Organization, cotton is an important crop. Honourable Speaker, they have innovated BT cotton. BT cotton is cotton that does not require a lot of chemical application to kill the pests that basically affect the crop. It is a variety of cotton that has already been injected with a gene that would basically make the worms that eat cotton impossible to eat. Basically, this particular gene works in the sense that once they eat, they fall off. They are never to continue eating. Therefore, there is considerable cost reduction in terms of the chemical usage. They have gone further and multiplied this particular variety, so it is available. But looking on the other hand, Honourable Speaker, we have a huge population of very poor farmers. These poor farmers will need assistance. And this is the point at which we need to focus as a country. And I want to thank the President for thinking about subsidizing production other than subsidizing consumption. And this is the point at which we should intervene in the cotton industry to buy farmers the seed. Distribute this seed in all the marginal areas and caution the farmers to prepare their land in time to receive the seed and therefore produce cotton for this country. Even as we do that, we should also be thinking about reviving the industry. And I want to appreciate the fact that, Honourable Speaker, the processing industry is not a lot more government today. The processing industry of cotton is a lot more private. So we are calling upon the private practitioners to work closely with the government and use very specific data, very specific production and productivity language, such that they know if we open up so many acres of land to cotton, and especially a given variety, known variety of cotton, then we shall be able to produce so much of cotton, and therefore the absorption capacity must be matched by the production capacity. The mistake we make sometimes is that we ask farmers to produce, and they produce a lot, and then we leave them with the product. And that is the predicament of some of this planning that has gone on in the past. But I would like to launch the current government and caution that we need to plan production with the consumption capacity of the country. The supply of cotton must match, or must be matched by the demand of the cotton. So as we move into the future, let us engage as industry players in the confines of this particular legislation, underlining and underscoring the importance of the legislation. Let us engage as sector stakeholders in terms of getting to know how much of land are we opening to cotton. First of all, how much seed are we able to produce? How much are we land are we opening to cotton? and we can go as far as having contract farming. Contract farming will help us to locate or to lock up the market. And Honourable Speaker, we have seen developments in the agricultural sector which are guaranteeing returns to the farmers. We have seen guaranteed minimum return to coffee at 80 shillings per kilo of cherry. We are moving towards guaranteeing a kilo of milk at 50 shillings, and so on and so forth. This is the point at which we need to work out our arithmetics very carefully and guarantee the cotton farmers that once they produce this lint, they will be able to sell at so many shillings per kilo. That way, you will help the farmers to make informed decisions. And these decisions will help us to increase on the production of cotton and the productivity of the cotton, as it were. Production in this country lately has been quite volatile. Volatility has been brought about by the fact that the industry players are not sure, the fact that the promises they give are not certain, the fact that production cannot be targeted to a specific known market. In structuring out the value chain, we need to know who are the handlers in the cotton industry, who are actually the first off-takers from the farmers. How are the off-takers organized so that they can be able to cover an area comprehensively and take all the cotton that is produced in that particular area? How are they then linked to the market? And how is this market growing? That we may be able to advise our farmers very carefully. Honourable Speaker, right now, our industries, few as they are, 15 generalists, import cotton from other countries, from Uganda, from Tanzania. They do not have better land to produce the cotton. They do not have better personnel to advise on cotton production. They do not have better farmers to produce cotton. They do not have as hard-working farmers as we have. They are only a little bit more organized. Why can't we be organized as a country? And that's why this bill is really important. Honourable Speaker, let me very briefly talk about the mills that we have. These mills are 19-something innovations. They are very old. Being old, it means with the changing times and fortunes, they have become outdated in terms of the processing capacity and in terms of the efficiency and effectiveness of the mills themselves. They are old and outdated. They are using outdated technology. Technology has changed. If we really are serious in revitalizing this particular industry, we must be able to change the processor. We must be able to improve on the mills themselves. So we need to improve on the mills themselves. First, revisit the efficiency and effectiveness of the mills and improve on it. Honourable Speaker, there are certain costs related to the cotton processing, as it were. If you listen to the stakeholders, which we have as a committee, we have extensively listened to the stakeholders. And one of the key issues they are bringing out so strongly is the cost of electricity. Electricity is costly in this country. I think we need to focus on subsidizing electricity where we can see immense potential for production and for growth. In this particular industry, we need to see how we can focus on subsidizing electricity, because processors will need more of use of electricity, as it were. Let me pause by asking a question. Why do we say that cotton industry is an important industry? Why is it important? Honourable Speaker, first and foremost, it's a labor-intensive industry. It requires human labor to produce cotton. It will require human labor to weed for cotton, to spray for the cotton plants. It will require human labor to harvest cotton. There is no machine that has been innovated to harvest cotton. So human beings will have to pick cotton themselves. The harnessing of that cotton will require human beings. Honourable Speaker, collection of the cotton itself, the management attributes of the lint, as it is fed into the granaries, it will require human labor. And we have sufficient supply of human labor, so we are advantaged. The reason is, why should we not take advantage of this particular situation? The second issue that is also key in this particular industry is that it is intensively and extensively linked to other sectors. Cotton is linked to other sectors in the sense that many people will use cotton products. Today, everyone in this honorable house is wearing a cotton product. You go out there, you find people in cotton products. Cotton is an important crop, and cotton itself is an important industry that needs to be supported. Honorable Speaker, I do not need to dwell a lot on the bill itself because Madam Emase, to the stakeholders is key. And that is why I thought it would be important for us as members of our committee to speak to that. To sum up or to close on our speaker, I would like to say two things. Number one, what is the guiding principle when it comes to supporting important productive sectors in this particular country? That's a question that we need to answer as a country and answer very carefully and get the correct answer. What is the guiding principle to supporting productive sector? I would like to say that if you look at agriculture as it were, agriculture, rural, and urban development in the current BPS has only been given a priority 3.5%. It is number 8 in terms of priorities. And it is about the most important. You cannot speak about Kenya without quoting something in agriculture. You will not be talking about Kenya. Kenya's mainstay of this economy is agriculture. Yet, we give it 3.5%. It is not that we are not guided as a country. We are signatories to the Maputo Declaration, signed in 2003, that in about 5 years, we were supposed to have increased the funding to agriculture as a proportion of the national budget to 10%. Come 2008, we have not done it. There was a review of the Maputo Declaration in 2014, 13, and then this was held in Equatorial Guinea, a town called Malabo. That particular provision was reviewed. And then they came up with specific parameters to measure the growth and development in agriculture by putting in money into agriculture, because money drives development. Honorable Speaker, Kenya has not responded as yet, despite the Malabo Declaration, which has specific targets in every subsector of agriculture. Then we have biennial reviews. Every time we are reviewed, we have underperformed in the greater majority of the aspects that the review goes through. Then the question is, don't we know? Is it that we don't know? Is it that we are ignorant? Or is it that we do not care? Honorable Speaker, I want to close by saying what I said at the beginning, that if you speak about this country and you don't talk about agriculture, you are out of order. You are not speaking about Kenya. Secondly, we have the potential to support this country to go where it's supposed to go. Those countries that grew in the past, the so-called developed countries, grew from industries like cotton. They grew from textile and apparel industries. Why are we watching an opportunity as our people languish in poverty? Honorable Speaker, I support this bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair, Agriculture. Very well spoken. Honorable members, I would like to welcome students seated in the public gallery this morning from Muna Secondary School, Limuru constituency, Kiambu County. You are welcome to the National Assembly to continue observing proceedings of the House. Honorable members, I would like to invite the Honorable Geoffrey Odanga, member for Matayos.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was just about to tell you that you also look on your left, and you have just done it very promptly. From the onset, let me thank the Honorable Betty Siengo and my own neighbor, the Honorable Mary Emase, for originating and sponsoring the Cotton Industry Development Bill, Senate Bill number 5 of 2023. And a lot has been said about the cotton industry, cotton farming in the past, in many areas of this country. And going around and looking around, you will notice that cotton can do in very many parts of the country. Cotton does very well in Western, particularly in Kakamega, Busia, Bungoma, in the four of the counties of Nyanza, Kisumu, Siaya, Homa Bay, Migori. It also does very well at the coast. It is doing very well in many parts of Eastern. Last year I happened to visit Embu, and we found BT cotton doing very well. So cotton was collapsed, and it was very unfortunate for those of us who even benefited from cotton growing. Some of us, like myself, while growing up, much of my school fees that was paid was from cotton farming. I did carry cotton, magunia of cotton, to the nearest collection center, a store around Busia town, and we had two in Busia town, the stores, one on the Matayo side and one on the Teso side. We had very many ginneries in the country. Most of them have collapsed. You go to Nambale, the ginnery is no longer there, the MPs here. You go to Malakisi, the ginnery is dead. Only Mluanda happens to be kind of operating a little. And all this were helping our farmers. So we want to really support this bill so that we are able to go back to cotton farming. Cotton farming, apart from providing textile, also, as it has been said before, makes farmers get cotton cake. They get oil. It can be processed into oils that we use. And it is a very important economic activity for the regions that it was being practiced. Cotton farming and industry collapsed, I think, and I believe, because of leadership that did not have a good forecast. I remember one day one of those presidents of ours saying that even his ministers were donning mitumba clothes. And that alone encouraged a lot of people to go into mitumba and forgot about farming. This country has not taken manufacturing very seriously in the past. But I'm happy that the current parliament and the last parliament have come out very seriously to schedule some crops which will help this country again go back to where it was in the 80s and 70s. The Committee of Agriculture in both parliaments, 12th parliament and this one, has put scheduling of crops very important, and they have come out with the bills, the coffee bill, the tea bill. We are now doing cotton, sugar is there, coconut also is on the line, and many other crops, so that Kenyans, wherever they are able to earn a living. Cotton, as a value chain, is very critical because it benefits the farmer, and we want the bill to ensure that it has brought in good provisions to make sure that the farmer of cotton benefits. Provisions to ensure that the millers benefit, and provisions to ensure that any person along the value chain is going to profit from cotton farming. And this is going to be very, very important, and it will make us, as the 13th Parliament, go down in the books of history as the Parliament that has really taken care of the interests of Kenyans at heart. Chairman has talked about the Malabo and the Maputo commitments, which this country has not implemented. In fact, by the time the year before last year, our budget on agriculture was at only around 2.8%. We need to make sure as this parliament that we really put our feet forward and stamp our feet down to ensure that we improve our budgetary allocation for agriculture to 10%, so that we can make a difference. Because we know this country, I remember in the 80s, we were being told, and we were singing everywhere, that this is an agricultural country, and in quotes, ati kilimo ndio uti wa mgongo wa taifa hili. We really need to ensure that this is done. If we have to do manufacturing, and if we have to help our people be involved in important economic activities, this must be done. So I want to support the bill, and also I want to urge other members to ensure that we make this bill success so that we go down in history as a parliament that really thought about our people. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Abdul Haro, member for Mandera South.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I think from the onset, I will say that I support the bill, and I thank Honorable Mary Mase for moving this important bill. Honorable Speaker, it has been described very eloquently by the chair about the importance of cotton in this country, and I cannot emphasize more. Cotton as an industry creates jobs, especially in the textile industry. Cotton will revive our industries. Cotton also contributes to economic development. As it was also very eloquently described by the chair, cotton is a cash crop suitable for marginal areas, and it is grown in about 24 counties in this country. That is almost 50% of Kenya. It's grown for its fiber, and its products are used for very many purposes. For example, cotton is used for making oil. It will surprise many people that cotton fiber actually can also be used to make flat panel TV screens. Cotton seeds can be used to make some plastic materials and explosives, and also quality papers. Cotton cords and ropes can also be used to make, the cotton cords can also be used to make tires. This is how important cotton is. And when it comes to environment, it is also one of the crops that is very environmental friendly. Research has shown that growing of cotton increases land use efficiency by 13%, and it also decreases greenhouse gas emissions by 39%, and it also decreases soil loss per acre by 50%. It also decreases water use by 89%. And under the Kenya government policy for addressing poverty, Kenya Vision 2030, cotton has been identified as a key subsector with potential to benefit 8 million people living in drier areas where cotton is grown. That is how important the cotton is. That is why this bill is very important. And I am particularly happy that the bill has actually described very clearly the functions of the Cotton Industry Development Board. I think those functions are well thought out, especially in the areas of regulatory processes in terms of imports and exports. It's very clear. The bill also talks about promotion of the cotton industry, particularly in the area of diversification of cotton products and also in the area of marketing. Honorable Speaker, under the same functions, the area of research and the area of technology transfer is also well addressed. And I'm also happy that the role of county government is also well described in the bill, especially in terms of regulatory and promotory purposes within the county, and how to coordinate farmers and traders within the county. I only have a particular issue in Part 5 of the bill, particularly under Article 25, which talks about registering a number of actors in the cotton industry, including a cotton grower who is required to be registered by the county government. I'm wondering why should a cotton grower be registered by the county government. This, I think, is an unnecessary barrier to cotton farming, and it should be addressed when we go to the next stage of amending this bill. I'm wondering why, for example, should a graduate in agriculture be required to register with the county government when he wants to invest in the cotton industry? And although some people may think I'm talking about this maybe coming from the point of levies, although the bill indicates that there will be no levies will be paid for registering a cotton grower, in Article 39, it gives another suggestion that the CS can impose a levy payable to the board for the development of cotton industry. And therefore, that is the only area that I think, if addressed, will settle my worries. But otherwise, I support the bill. And thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to contribute to this bill.
Thank you. The Honorable Timothy Toroitich, member for Marakwet West.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute on this very important bill. Honorable Speaker, I rise to support this cotton industry development bill Senate Bill number 5 of 2023. Honorable Speaker, I wish to thank the Honorable Mary Emase for this very progressive piece of legislation. Honorable Speaker, this goes to implement our constitution. Honorable Speaker, agriculture is a fully devolved function, and agriculture is part of the transformative agenda of Kenya Kwanza government. Honorable Speaker, this is a plan that the government has put in place, and for this country to industrialize in the year 2030, as was envisaged, we must fully invest in the agriculture sector. Honorable Speaker, but what has made this bill to be progressive is because even though agriculture is a devolved function, ordinarily we would expect county governments to develop the legal framework. But Honorable Speaker, what we need in this country is a uniformity of laws. Because if we leave each county government to develop a framework on areas that are devolved under the Constitution, then we shall have a multiplicity of legislations that are competing. But now, if we go this route in having a framework of uniformity in terms of legal and institutional framework in this country, then we shall have laws that cut across. Honorable Speaker, we've had challenges since devolution came in. I had a chance to work in the county government before joining this House. Honorable Speaker, you find that if a function is devolved, we have 47 county governments developing their own legal framework on a devolved function, and you find that, for example, the issue of VCD teachers, which I raised somewhere in this House, you find that there is disparity in curricula, there is disparity in terms of management, there is disparity in terms of remuneration, because we have not heeded to the constitutional provision on policy. The national government develops policy on devolved functions, most of it. Honorable Speaker, so I support this bill because it provides a comprehensive legal and institutional framework on the issue of cotton, so that even if county governments are to develop frameworks or laws, then they shall have a standard, uniform law that guides the entire country on how to develop this legislation. Honorable Speaker, I agree with the Honorable Mary Emase that in order to develop this country, to industrialize this country, we must be able to invest in cotton. And cotton is not only produced in western part of this country. Honorable Speaker, even where I come from, Elgeyo Marakwet County, we grow cotton. And the challenge has been lack of markets, lack of institutions that properly manage the cotton industry in this country. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, since we have now formed a board and we have cascaded it to the county governments, then it will lead to investor confidence in cotton growing in this country. Honorable Speaker, the biggest challenge that we've had in this country is marketing. Our people have been growing cotton in small scale. But you also find that the quality of cotton that we grow is not in tandem with what is grown outside the country. So we need to invest in research. And I'm very happy that this bill has provided very clearly that the board that has been established will be able to set up a research unit so that we can get quality cotton, modern cotton that can be able to compete globally and internationally in terms of markets. Honorable Speaker, we should also look at subsidy. Like what we are seeing now in the subsidized fertilizer. You can see that we've had increased productivity in maize production. So even as we pass this law, we need to bring some subsidy in the cotton seeds so that our people can be able to afford, or if possible, they're even supplied for free so that we can have many farmers planting this cotton, and we set up the ginaries in respective counties that grow this cotton, because the biggest challenge that we can have is we may have the cotton in large quantities, but we lack, one, the ginaries, and number two, the markets. So I believe, and I support this bill that creates a legal and institutional framework insofar as cotton growing is concerned in this country. So, Honorable Speaker, I rise to support this very progressive piece of legislation.
Thank you. The Honorable Doris Donya, member for Kisii.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and the mover of this bill. It has taken me back, Madam Speaker, to high school when we were told that the definition of agriculture is that science or practice of farming, which includes cultivation of the soil for growing of crops and rearing of animals. I remember I asked my teacher, apart from eating, what else can we do with these animals? You know, when you're new, you don't have information. I remember the teacher telling me, like sheep, you can have wool, which is used for making the materials. Then we proceeded with the agriculture in class, the cash crops in Kenya, sisal, which we don't have, Kisii we grew, and other parts, pyrethrum, which took most of us to school. We look at tea, we go to wheat, Madam Speaker. Now we are having this discussion of cotton, not forgetting coffee. The sweetest coffee was from Kisii land. Madam Speaker, when we follow back on what has ailed our land, since we stopped making use of the agricultural research centers, if you followed well, why did these agriculture research centers die? One of the factors is that there is no infrastructure. We have the answers of all these things, infrastructure, leading to the fall of the agriculture research centers. I was going through my notes and I was reading about the NASA Center, which is located in Texas. It has employed so many people and provides in terms of the economy of that country. So if we improved our research centers, Madam Speaker, we will have over 40,000 people employed. And these agriculture research centers will give reasons on how, give answers on how we can improve our cotton. It will offer training. I can remind some of you, like my colleague here, Lillian, Honorable Lillian, pH. We learned something like soil pH. So farmers don't have this basic education. These are some of the things which are ailing our agriculture. Crop rotation. This discussion has reminded me of the agriculture, Madam Speaker. Let me just rejoice and talk about it. We rarely do crop rotation. We were even told, stop planting sugarcane, stop planting coffee. pyrethrum, because they take over 18 months. Start planting potatoes, months to 4 months. In the process of being told on planting crops that last for a short time, we killed the coffee industry. We killed our cotton, forgetting that the most lucrative cash crop, Madam Speaker, is this cotton. We can't afford cotton t-shirts. Even during campaigns, we go for the cheap ones, meaning cotton is lucrative. We go back, we support this bill that Honorable Emase has brought to us. We bring back the glory of those days of wheat, the days of having tea, Madam Speaker, planting a lot of sugarcane. And anyway, we might improve the cotton sector. Then you find that our country, Kenya, is not embracing our cotton. Then we start doing the importation, which is killing the farmers. What has killed sugar farming in Kenya? Farmers, they bear a lot of costs during production. When they are growing the sugar, Madam Speaker, on the 6th month, you find that we are doing more importation of sugar, which is cheap. Then definitely when the farmers will be harvesting their sugar, it will be at a loss. So we should protect our farmers. We go back, we think and rethink. We avoid a lot of talkings. We now do the actions, so that what we say before the floor of this house makes more sense to those who are listening to us. That's why it's called Hallowed House. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Njeri Maina, member for Kirinyaga.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Although my colleague Donya has said that the sweetest coffee is from Kisii, I can assure her it is from Kirinyaga County. Madam Speaker, the cotton textile apparel industry is a huge market with the potential of contributing from around 9% of our GDP. Madam Speaker, it is a priority crop under the Better Agenda, the Kenya Kwanza government, and the ASGTS under Vision 2030. Madam Speaker, luxury brands like Tommy Hilfiger, Calvin Klein, and others are known for contract farming in countries like Indonesia. So Kenya can tap into that to ensure that we maximize the output that our farmers get. Madam Speaker, I've had the luxury of visiting Brazil, and the textile industry in Brazil is worth over $60 billion US, Madam Speaker, creating employment for millions of citizens of Brazil. Madam Speaker, this bill is therefore timely and very crucial. This bill will support cotton farmers under the Kirinyaga Cotton Cooperative Society from Riagishero, Murindoko, South Ngariama, Nyangate, Tebere, and Motivi in Mwea constituency, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the revival of cotton ginneries will also cascade to value chain job creation opportunities, given that the government is now focusing on ensuring that we have industrial parks in various counties. Madam Speaker, Kirinyaga County is one of the counties that will, and as I speak, is constructing an industrial park in Dia constituency so that we can ensure our farmers benefit and we create job opportunities for the young people of Kirinyaga County. Madam Speaker, the Kirinyaga Economic Processing Zone, this house allocated in the main budget Kenya shillings 500 million for the same. So this value chain must be supported even with legislation to ensure that we have the maximum output. Madam Speaker, as we speak about cotton and revival of the Mwea ginnery, it is important to note that we must also ensure that farmers get guaranteed minimum return in regard to cotton. Madam Speaker, in the past, which has cascaded to farmers doing away with cotton, they were getting as low as 50 Kenya shillings. With BT cotton farming now being done in Moya constituency and over 100 acres output, if we increase this to ensure that they have at least Kenya shillings 100, Madam Speaker, I am certain that they will also get the motivation to farm cotton. Madam Speaker, it is also important to note that most of the gineries that are operating in Kenya have an output of around 50%, which is because they do not have the machinery that is updated. And we need to automate the process so that it can cut the cost of production for the farmer and ensure that they get good returns from cotton farming. Madam Speaker, due to the competition in the market, it is also important for us to have the goodwill, as this is going to be a county endeavor, as agriculture is now devolved from the national government for interventions if need be, so that we can stabilize the industry. Madam Speaker, as I wind up, I want to also urge this House to ensure that we prioritize a proper framework in terms of regulation for revival of all the cotton gineries. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Much member for Kirinyaga. The Honorable Lillian Sioi, member for Trans Nzoia County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this chance to also contribute on this bill that has been moved by Honorable Emase. I also want to support it, Madam Speaker, because almost everyone who has been standing here, all the members of parliament have spoken about job creation. And I want to say that we are privileged in this country because our land is very fertile. The only problem that we have, Madam Speaker, is we have left aside some crops that could have brought too much profit on this country and concentrated on some, and that is creating monopoly in this country, Madam Speaker. I want to say, Madam Speaker, that Western region is one of the areas that are good producers of cotton. But this field has been left behind because while we were planting cotton some years back, where the farmers lacked market and they also lacked information, they lacked seeds and they lacked market. And Madam Speaker, the mover of this bill has spoken about production, processing, marketing, and distribution. My contribution on production, Madam Speaker, it is important that we come up with a framework whereby we will have a board that will enable the farmers to know the kind of seeds they need, and they do testing of the soil so that we come to realize what can be planted in what area to avoid duplication and to avoid monopoly of plantation in this country, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, I stand to support that, because when we are able to help our farmers produce and improve on their production, it is going to be profitable to this country, Madam Speaker. I also want to talk about processing. When we plant our crops, Madam Speaker, and we don't have factories to process our production, this has discouraged the farmer, and we realize that farmers put aside what they can produce well and start planting what is marketable in this country. And probably, maybe what they are planting is not suitable on the soil that they have, Madam Speaker. So I also support that, because when we have factories to process our production, it is going to help our farmers and encourage them to plant more and more of cotton in this country. This bill has come in handy, Madam Speaker, because this is the time that our president has given money to ensure that we build enough industrial park. Reason of building more industrial parks in this country, Madam Speaker, is because we want to ensure that our farmers, our business people have a place where they are going to store their crops, where they are going to store their products and where they are going to look for markets from there, Madam Speaker. So I want to support this bill and congratulate the mover, and I hope that the whole House will adopt this so that we all help our farmers to produce cotton, to process, market, and even transport to other countries, Madam Speaker. Thank you so much for this chance.
Thank you. The Honorable Patrick Ndwega, member for Chuka Igamba Ngombe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I like to support this motion that has been brought by my colleague Miriam Mase. One, I want to say, Madam Speaker, that this country has lost so much on cash crop production, because if I look like county like Tharaka Nithi, where I come from, all the way from Igamba Ngombe to the whole of Tharaka, cotton was the leading cash crop when I was a child, but Madam Speaker, right now you find very few farmers have scattered cotton in their shabas. It's not because they don't want to do it, but because the market dwindled. Madam Speaker, this country, if you look at statistics, allowed 1980s, 85 used to produce almost 70,000 barrels of cotton every year. But right now, from statistics, we only produce 5,000. From 70,000 to 5,000 bales every year, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the President and this government really promised people jobs, and I'm part of that. And we know the greatest source of employment in this country is agriculture, Madam Speaker. So if we can list crops that are forgotten in this country, that's like cotton, crops like dengu, crops like sugarcane, Madam Speaker, we'll have employment for our people, and this problem of employment will not be a problem in this country anymore. I look at the regulations. The Honorable Member is suggesting that after we enact this bill, the ministry should come up with the regulations. And this is where now the problem always comes in, Madam Speaker. I want to propose that when we come to the regulations, we really need to address the issue of production, marketing, processing, and exporting, because that's the biggest problem we have found ourselves in coffee and tea. Where one is a farmer, he is a marketer, he is a processor, and he is an exporter. So when coming with regulations, we need to separate the laws that who should export and where should your law head, so that one person does not take the whole chain from production to marketing, Madam Speaker, and finally exporting. Madam Speaker, I see they have also seen that regulations will be made to stabilize the prices. Right now we have the coffee revolving fund, so Madam Speaker, I also suggest that once we revive this crop, we also have a revolving fund that will ensure farmers get a minimum guarantee as they produce this. Madam Speaker, most of these crops we are trying to revive. For example, coffee now, we have put a lot of effort in coffee, but if you go to farmers, they still tell you the coffee factories they used are dilapidated, they are worn out, and most of them the machines are broken down. I'm sure this is the same thing that is happening in the cotton industry. I'm sure most ginners now are broken down, they are using outdated machinery, and that will increase the cost of production and processing of cotton. So, Madam Speaker, I would propose that once the board is formed, they are able to be given funds so that we revive the ginners and we can have modern equipment to process cotton, Madam Speaker. I looked at where farmers are requested to register, Madam Speaker, and I think it's a good thing because we are registering farmers across the country because of the subsidies, maybe the fertilizers. You need to know how many cotton farmers we have, so that when you're importing fertilizer, you can know you're importing for how many farmers. When you're importing for the seeds, you can know you're importing for how many farmers and the size of their ranch. So I think it's a good thing, Madam Speaker, because it helps the government in planning on how to assist the farmers. Madam Speaker, speaking of the industrial aggregation centers that the counties are putting up in collaboration with the national government, I think it's the high time now we address what will be aggregated, because at times you look at some counties that look at the investment in the aggregation center, you wonder what finally they will aggregate. So this is a very good bill, because for a county like Tharaka Nithi, we can revive cotton. We are sure now as we aggregate coffee and tea in the lower zones of the county, we'll be aggregating dengu and cotton, so all the county will be taken care of, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I like to support this bill.
Thank you very much, Member for Igamba Ngombe. Honorable members, I would like to welcome Students seated in the public gallery this afternoon from various universities under the umbrella of Annual Muslim Youth Leadership Summit and Awards. You are welcome to the National Assembly to observe proceedings of the House. Please help me to welcome them. Thank you very much. Now let us go to the Honorable Cecilia Ngetit.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member for Turkana County.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this chance to add my voice on this very important bill. Madam Speaker, first and foremost, I would like to thank Honorable Mary Emase and her colleague for sponsoring this bill because, Honorable Speaker, many of the economic issues we are discussing around, revival of cotton can be a solution to them, Honorable Speaker. When I speak about cotton, I speak with a lot of nostalgia, Madam Speaker. When I was a child, I want to surprise you. Turkana is known for drought, but I want to surprise you. We used to grow cotton in Turkana. Along River Taukel and River Kerio, those are irrigation schemes in Turkana East, Morulem, Katilia, all those areas. And then in River Taukel, Katilu irrigation scheme and Taukel irrigation scheme, Madam Speaker. We used to grow cotton. So during my childhood time, I know how the plant of cotton looks like, and it is a funny plant. When you people are harvesting cotton, then later in the other acre that you already harvested, there is already another blossoming cotton ripe to be harvested. So it is a very good plant, and Turkana is very dry, and you can imagine cotton made it in Turkana. So it is a drought-resistant plant that can be planted all over this country, Madam Speaker. And as some of my colleagues are putting to it that most of the cotton outfits in the world designers like Zara, Tommy Hilfiger, all those designers, Madam Speaker, cotton outfits are very expensive. So meaning as Kenya, if we really revive this industry, we will be somewhere in terms of economy, Madam Speaker. That time when cotton was being grown in my area, Madam Speaker, the only disadvantage used to be delayed payment, Madam Speaker. Those days, there were these Indians who used to come to buy cotton. They used to come, I think once or twice a year for payment. And Turkana being a drought-stricken county, all that time when you are waiting for the Indian man to come and buy your cotton, you have nothing to eat. And I think that is the only thing that discouraged our people. But now with good legislation, now with very good revelations, very good research in place, I think we will know how to plan our farms so that when we are waiting for payments from cotton, we are planting another farm we are putting another crop on another farm, Madam Speaker. Then the other menace that is now affecting our irrigation schemes, Madam Speaker, in Turkana is this weed called madenge. It is called Prosophis, and in Kiturkana it is called etirai. It is becoming a huge menace, Madam Speaker. Most of our farms along the river have been taken over by this weed, so farming has become a challenge in Turkana. And I think cotton farming, if it will be brought to practice, it will help us curb the menace of madenge, Madam Speaker. And the other reason I want to support this bill, Madam Speaker, just like others have said, the job creation thing, people will create jobs by planting cotton, and industries will grow. We will have the industrial parks now that the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto talks about. There will be several industrial parks, Madam Speaker, that concern cotton, and that in itself will be employment. There will be money exchanging hands, Madam Speaker, so our economy will stabilize in the process, Madam Speaker. And I heard someone say, research has shown that cotton also is used as animal feed, Madam Speaker. Turkana County being the home of huge livestock in Kenya, I think if we start planting cotton, Madam Speaker, then we will use it as animal feeds, and it will be very beneficial to our county, Madam Speaker. As other members have risen to the floor of the House,
I want to be on record supporting this bill, Madam Speaker, that cotton production is a welcome in Turkana. We will practice it along the River Taukel and River Kerio, and it will help us do away with Etirai menace. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very much, Member for Turkana. The Honorable Geoffrey Mulanya, Member for Nambale.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to speak about this particular noble bill. Madam Speaker, first, I wish to congratulate Honorable Mary Mas, my neighbor, for co-sponsoring this particular bill. Madam Speaker, cotton is a raw material for textile industry. All along we have been saying that we need to create jobs for our youths who are graduating from our universities. But there is one particular course that has been really affected, that is the students undertaking the mechanical engineering. As much as we sponsor these students to partake this particular course, but the moment they clear with the university, we don't have factories where we are supposed to engage them, even for attachment. Madam Speaker, cotton is one of the crops that will help us solve this problem. As we talk about the legislation on establishing the board that's going to manage the cotton growing in this country, we must first of all ask ourselves questions. Why did the cotton growing stop in this particular country? My constituency is likely to be housing one of the cotton ginaries, one of the oldest cotton ginaries in this country. That's Nambale Cotton Ginnery. Madam Speaker, we know that farmers were really demotivated by the low pay that came as a result of competition arising from the other materials coming in from outside the country on the textile industry. We know that most of us, when you go to buy fabric, we love the cotton-made fabric. But we ask ourselves, our country can cultivate this particular cotton. Why are we promoting farmers from other countries? That's the question that we must first of all ask ourselves as Kenyans. Because the moment we support this particular industry, we know that we'll be creating jobs for our youths and also supporting our farmers. If I speak for farmers from Western Kenya, this particular crop will help us so that we know that we have sugarcane as a cash crop. But sugarcane takes 18 months in the farm. Secondly, sugarcane will also compete with the other food crops, so that most farmers will till their land to the extent that they have no place where they can also have farming for the food crop to support on the domestic consumption of for their families. But cotton is a crop that only lasts 3 months in the farm. And by allowing cotton growing, we'll allow our farmers, especially in Western and Nambale constituency, the farmer can cultivate the food crop in the long rain, and then in the short rains, that is the months of August to December, they cultivate cotton. And with that particular balancing, we'll ensure that we have food for our families, and at the same time, farmers will have money generated from the cotton growing in the months of December, because this cotton is a warm weather crop that cannot be grown in the long rains. So, Madam Speaker, having gone through the bill, I note that we have really come up with a framework on how to control the cotton farming and selling. But the question that we must look into as the legislature is that, first of all, let's look at the policy around the selling and the motivation of farmers. Because once a farmer is motivated, we'll be assured that the cotton growing will be sustained in this country. Otherwise, unless the farmer is motivated, we'll still go back with the same problem that we started with, where the farmer are demotivated, and then we have the chorus of cotton growing, yet when you go back to their farms, nobody's growing this particular cash crop. I support this legislation, and from my end, I'll be proposing some amendments to the bill when it comes at the committee stage. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Faisal Bader, member from Sambweni.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipatia nafasi hata mimi niongeze sauti yangu kwa mswada huu. Pia nimpongeze Mheshimiwa Emasi kwa kuleta mswada huu muhimu katika taifa letu la Kenya. Na niseme ukulima wa pamba ni sekta ambayo imetelekezwa kwa muda mrefu, kwa miaka mingi. Kama taifa tumepoteza kiuchumi kwa muda mrefu. Kwa hiyo nataka tu nimpongeze sana Mheshimiwa Emasi kwa mswada huu ambao utarudisha hadhi na kuboresha ukulima wa pamba katika taifa letu la Kenya. Hata mimi niseme ukulima wa pamba sio inafanyika katika sehemu ya magharibi ya Kenya peke yake. Hata katika mkoa wa Pwani tuko na wakulima wa pamba katika kaunti ya Kwale, kaunti ya Lamu, kaunti ya Kilifi na kaunti ya Taita Taveta. Ni masikitiko makubwa sana kwa miaka hii yote na huu muda wote hakuna hata kinu kimoja cha kuchambua pamba katika eneo la Pwani. Lakini nataka tu nimpongeze Mheshimiwa Rais na serikali ya Kenya Kwanza kwa kutuangalia sisi kama watu wa Pwani na kuhakikisha hata wakulima wetu wa pamba watakwenda kufaidi. Kwa sababu wiki mbili za mbele zinazokuja Mheshimiwa Rais atakuja rasmi kuzindua kinu cha kuchambulia pamba katika eneo bunge ninalo liwakilisha mimi Msambweni katika wadi ya Kinondo. Na niseme mswada huu utaweza kulinda wakulima kutokana na wale madalali ambao madalali hawa wamekuwa wakinyanyasa wakulima kwa muda mrefu. Kama tukiangalia katika sekta ya sukari. Sekta ya sukari inaanguka kwa sababu ya madalali hawa. Lakini mswada huu utasaidia kuondoa hawa madalali na wakulima watakwenda kufaidi. Katika mswada huu pia umetaja ongezeko la thamani kwa hii bidhaa ya pamba. Na niseme ongezeko la thamani, kila wakati tukisikia ongezeko la thamani kwa bidhaa, hii inamaanisha kuwa mkulima atapata faida kubwa kwa sababu gharama ya bei itapanda. Pili, tukisikia ongezeko la thamani, hii inamaanisha kuwa ajira itapatikana kwa vijana wetu. Na hili ndio swala ambalo tunalipatia kipaumbele kama taifa. Basi mimi sitaki kuendelea zaidi hapo Mheshimiwa, lakini tu nataka niombe na niwasihi wabunge wenzangu kwa jumla tuunge mkono huu mswada na tuupitishe kwa haraka ili iwe sheria. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Hata mkono.
Sande mbunge wa Msambweni. The Honorable John Waluke, member for Sirisia.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for giving me chance also to contribute on this bill. Madam Speaker, from where I come from, we have a ginnery called Malakisi Ginnery, but it collapsed some years ago. I want to thank Honorable Mary Emasi for bringing so that we fight and make sure that we revive all the ginneries that are collapsed, all of them in this country, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, people from Sirisia, where I come from, and Teso North, we harvested 65,000 tons of cotton. And I'm happy, Madam Speaker, that we are reviving this crop because Kenya has been importing material for clothes from outside the country. And yet we have these materials, Madam Speaker, can be found from areas like Machakos, like Makueni, the coast region, Homa Bay, and Western. Madam Speaker, farmers are ready. The only problem that we are realizing, Madam Speaker, is the cotton seed is not found. It only came last year, but this year farmers have been asking for the seed. Madam Speaker, we are urging the Ministry of Agriculture to make sure that we get the seed. We know it is imported from outside the country, Madam Speaker. And it is very easy, Madam Speaker, to grow this cotton, because we always plant it during second season, Madam Speaker, in Western, because that time we would have harvested all the food crops that we need. When it was there, Madam Speaker, it produced so many items, like soap, bar soaps. We used to buy from the ginaries, things like animal feeds, the cotton feed, the sunflower seed, Madam Speaker, this ginnery used to produce. And it was very easy for us farmers from those regions, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, I'm happy with the Kenya Kwanza government, the way it is struggling on every sector, Madam Speaker, to make sure that our young people get employment in different fields, Madam Speaker. And this should continue so that we realize the potential of cotton seed. Madam Speaker, it allowed the country to import mitumba, and if we have our own cotton, Madam Speaker, I think we are going to reduce on that. Because like me, I used to be in military, and our uniforms were Kenya military used to buy these uniforms from Rivertex. And I'm happy that Rivertex is ready to buy the cotton in many millions of tons, Madam Speaker, so that they make clothes, good suits, cotton suits, Madam Speaker. And I rise to support and to thank Honorable Mary Mercy for bringing this for the people of this country, Madam Speaker, to realize that Kenya Kwanza government is really working. Madam Speaker, also, I want to thank the President of this country, Madam Speaker, for accommodating, for his initiative that, Madam Speaker, now the Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga is being prepared properly by His Excellency, the President, to join. Kwenda huko.
The Honorable Rahim Dawood, what is out of order, Honorable Rahim?
Madam Speaker, he was talking irrelevance because Honorable Raila Odinga has got nothing to do with this cotton bill. Madam Speaker, if he wants to praise, he can go to the media center to do that. And Madam Speaker, I wish to speak as well on this bill.
The Honorable, that was irrelevant. That was irrelevant. You have already concluded, and I can see that the Honorable Member for Sirisia is stepping out. So the Honorable Zamzam.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika, na mimi niweze kumpongeza dadangu Mheshimiwa Imase kuleta mswada huu leo bungeni. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, pamba iliweza kupandwa mwanzo katika sehemu za pwani, hapo ni mwaka 1830, Mheshimiwa Spika, na pamba imekuwa ni bidhaa adhimu sana ambayo ina mapato mazuri sana kuleta katika taifa letu. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi napenda kupigia pono mjadala huu wa leo nikisema tupatiane hii nafasi, pamba iweze kukuzwa sehemu zote za taifa. Ilikuwa ya kuzwa Lamu kama vile Mheshimiwa Msambweni amesema, Msambweni, sehemu nyingi za pwani. Na pia tunaomba sisi kama wapwani, manake pamba, Mheshimiwa Spika, kando na kutengeza materials za nguo, sisi tuenda kuchukua sehemu zingine za nje, imefufua viwanda vyetu. Mheshimiwa Spika, tunaona kuna Rivertex Textile, tunataka Kikomi pia ifufuliwe, tunataka pale Dongo Kundu tujengewe na sisi pia. Tumuomba Rais pia atujengee pale katika Dongo Kundu Special Economic Zone, tupate na sisi factory ya kutengeza pamba. Mheshimiwa Spika, kando na hiyo pia imeongeza ajira kwa watoto wetu ndani ya taifa hili. Manake unaona kama EPZ wameajiri zaidi ya vijana karibu 200,000, na hawa vijana wetu wanafanya katika makampuni ya pamba, wakiweza kupata na wao pia ajira kule. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, zile mbegu za pamba zile unaona zinatoa sabuni, zinatoa mafuta masafi, zinatoa chakula cha kuku, yani kila kitu ndani ya pamba kina thamani yake. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa hiyo mimi nataka kusema hivi, hii pamba sisi na hata na bidhaa zingine ambazo ni cash crop kwetu, tukifufua basi itaweza kufufua uchumi mkubwa wa Kenya na maisha yatakuwa mazuri katika taifa letu. Mheshimiwa Spika, tukiweza kupandisha pamba katika anga ambazo zinasifika, tuweze kupandisha wachai, tuweze kupandisha coconut, tuweze kupandisha cashew nut. Hizi ni bidhaa ambazo Mheshimiwa Spika, tukiweza kuwekeza katika ukulima, basi production ya taifa hii, mazao yatakuwa mazuri na hata Wakenya watakuwa na furaha ya kulipa ushuru. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa hiyo mimi nampongeza sana Mheshimiwa Emase, na nasema kama mama kaunti wa Mombasa, naomba sana kwa heshima tena, manake naona mambo yenda vizuri sasa tunaomba sasa na sisi Mombasa ile special economic zone waweze kutujengea pale, kwa sababu sisi pia ni wakulima wa pamba. Mheshimiwa Spika, tuweze kupanda na sisi kule, tuweze kuweka watoto wetu ajira. Nimshukuru Rais kwa kuweza kufungua ile ya kule Msambweni kama alivyosema ndugu yangu. Mheshimiwa Spika, panapo sifa upewa sifa. Ikiwa Rais anafanya kazi vizuri, Mama Zamzam sina budi kumpongeza, na leo nampongeza kwa sababu akienda kutufungulia mradi ule utakuwa ni mradi ambao unashika watoto wetu wa pwani, ni mradi ambao utakuja kutoa ajira, ni mradi ambao utakuja kuleta mazao mazuri katika mkoa wetu wa Pwani. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa hiyo nakupongeza Mheshimiwa Emase, tukaze kamba, tupande pamba na Kenya tutaipanda na pamba. Asante sana.
The Honorable Julius Ruto.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity you've given me. Mine is also to rise on the support of this particular motion and the bill that is presented by my sister Mary Emase and the Honorable Senator. And in support of this, Madam Speaker, it is candidly wise enough that as Kenya, we have to appreciate that we are a country, that we are sovereign in nature. From the school that we were taught the basic needs of human being. We were taught that the basic needs of human being is food, shelter, and clothing. Now, as a country, Kenya, we are struggling to address the issue of food. We are now struggling to address the issue of shelter through affordable housing. But now, the serious matter that is before us is the aspect of clothing. And out of the 50 million and more Kenyans that have to be clothed day in, day out, this is an economic activity that we cannot accept or sit down and lose or sit out this one to be an opportunity for somebody else. Because for Kenyans now to trace, Madam Speaker, all of us we appreciate. We are tracing clothes from Turkey, mitumba from abroad, either from China, or from any other name, any other country that we are buying our clothes. 50 million, those are activity units that can mean well for our economic growth in this country. There before, when we were growing, we were aware of Rivertex that is in Eldoret, a factory that is up and running now, but faced with a lot of challenges, the efficiency of supply of cotton, that is the raw material on the fabric that they are producing. We are aware of Kikomi in Nyanza that was closed down, whereas we know all the sugar belt and the Lake Basin area were good areas for production of cotton. What I'm saying, Madam Speaker, is that now as a country, Kenya, for us to be able to sustain and wait out this particular economic tribulation and challenges we are going through, we must speak to ourselves and be able to address our resources and our minds to the right direction. After production, where now we are focusing on food. After production, where we are focusing on raw materials that we end up exporting, and then again take back our money to facilitate employment of the foreign countries. Because as we are buying our clothes from Turkey or any other country, then it means we are facilitating growth of the economy, of employment of those specific countries. Now we are also facing another challenge of forex exchange and the constant volatility of our foreign exchange because of demand of dollar for us to be able to procure these particular basic needs. And therefore, I'm saying this bill has come at the right time that we need now to bring our minds together as a government, as a nation, as a country, from legislative point of view and from executive, and say it from the little resources we have, can we now put the resources in the right place it is deserving? And the right point of it is, can we produce the right materials that is able to sort out our problem? Because we are looking at the domestic market. In this case, we are not talking about foreign market. Our domestic market, the 50 million Kenyans that we need to clothe. And the main cloth that is required, even from children at the baby stage, are the cotton materials. Where we are sleeping, now we are covering ourselves at the cotton materials. And therefore, this is a serious issue that even the little resources we have, we need to put it in the right direction so that we address the basic things over human life. That is shelter, that is food, and that is growth. And I stand to support this particular bill and say Rivertex is ready to support the country. We need now to go back to Kikomi and many other sectors so that we're able to raise an opportunity for employment and create a market valuation system that is able to stabilize our economy. And if we go this direction, Kenya will be safe. Kenya will be suffering. We are not going to live by the masses of the donors, by the masses of the loaners, but we will stand to live as a country, Kenya, and appreciate that this is our economic activity we have. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Member for Keses. Honorable members, I see a few of you still had interest. The Honorable Gikolong, the Honorable Rashid Bedzimba, and the Honorable Dahoud. I hope you'll get another opportunity. Please be upstanding, honorable members. Honorable members, and the time now being 1 p.m., this House stands adjourned until today, Wednesday, 28th February 2024 at 2:30 p.m.